Hello? Hello?
You're good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, I wasn't sure if my microphone was working. This week, Marvel announced the new creative team behind the Amazing Spider-Man. We all lived through the Zeb Wells era, some of us with glee, some of us with gloom, but we are well past that now. We are deep into the eight deaths of Spider-Man, which many of us thought would be a stopgap. We thought Joe Kelly, you know, great hand, coming back to comics from animation to do this run, and we'll move forward, and Marvel will announce a new great big creative team. Well, I have news for you. In April, Marvel will be relaunching Amazing Spider Man with a brand new number one. And with that comes,
Surely that's got to be a bombastic creative team, right, Sean?
well, yeah. I mean, joining the creative team is none other than in my opinion, one of the greatest artists working in comics right now, Pepe Larraz.
Ooh,
Okay. All right. So we're going for like a
spicy.
House of X style thing with this, huh?
Nice.
Yeah.
Uncanny Spider-Man. New adjective.
Um, the other side of the coin, on the writing side, we've got a name you're not gonna believe. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked when I saw that Joe Kelly,
The Joe Kelly.
The same one that was on the book before the new number one.
the very same, the very, very same. Now, the silence is shock because I think everybody is surprised that this is the way forward for Spider Man in 2025. But you know what? You know what?
What?
I'm not that surprised.
Who else they got?
I'm confused but not surprised. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it sure does. It sure
Yo,
does. Go ahead.
fire Pepe Larraz though. Let's go. Let's get us
We're,
ready for that.
we're going to talk about the ins and outs of this announcement, which was made by Polygon this week. We're going to talk about what the goals seem to be from the creative team, the highs and lows of it. And what does this mean about what Marvel intends to do with Spider-Man going forward? I feel like we've talked about Spider-Man more in 2024 than we have here on this show, maybe ever. And so
Yeah.
I am very curious to see what does this mean for the character going into 2025. We've got a big show. We've got a lot of things we're going to be getting into. This was an interesting week this week, so I'm excited to dive into all of it. Thank you for being here with us. We have on tap today Marco.
What's up, Joe Kelly dogs?
Dude, oh man, we've got Tyler.
That sounds like cannibalism, and I'm not into that.
They're getting better and better.
That I know
They're
of.
really not.
Upward trajectory. I don't know.
They're really not
Yeah, I need Cale back.
for that alone. Tyler's here. Did I say your name?
You did, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Marco's just dog thing is
yeah,
it's
it's not
proof that
working.
Marco's more of a cat guy.
Yeah.
Always.
It's proof that he's more of an analytics guy. And I'm Sean. Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. Whether you are live or in the future, Crocodile Trennan, that's a name I haven't seen before, says happy holidays, y'all. And happy holidays right back to you. Thank you for the well wishes. We appreciate that. Uh, we're going to have a lot of fun with the holiday season next Saturday when we do our Pallies. That's our big end of the year show. Can't wait for that. Hopefully, you guys tune in and come hang out. I think it's going to be a tremendous time as it is every single year. But that's next week. This week, we're talking about Amazing Spider-Man. This week, we're talking about the character that I think is only second to Batman as most popular superhero of all time.
The sales charts show that.
Right. Which puts that character in the upper echelon of popular characters in the history of the world, right? In the history of the world, there are only a handful of characters that are more popular than Spider-Man, which means that a lot rides on the success or failure of Spider-Man merchandise, including comics, Spider-Man movies. Sony can't fucking let it go. Uh, Spider-Man comic books, all that stuff's really important. And so Marvel is incentivized to do their very best with these comic books. Enter Zeb Wells. Enter Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. One of the things that I said about the Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr. aspect was that Marvel had no reason to introduce an artist who was young and hungry because John Romita Jr. was the draw of that run. It wasn't Zeb Wells. Whether you like Zeb Wells or not, I do. He wasn't the draw of that run. It was Romita Jr.
Yeah.
Because the old heads who love Amazing Spider-Man and buy it love to see Romita Jr.
And I think it worked for what Zeb Wells was doing, as because in his run he kind of makes it more street level Spider-Man. As much as we didn't care much for gang war. It was about crime and about Tombstone. It wasn't about the Secret Six blowing stuff up or multiversal stuff. So having Romita Jr. on it kind of made sense for that more bare bones, bare knuckle feel.
Yeah, I can ground myself to a creator. That's the creator.
And, like Zeb Wells is a good hand, but like his name, you don't see that name and go, "Oh my God, it's Zeb Wells coming to Amazing Spider-Man."
Top 10 seller.
Yeah, for me it was like, oh, Zeb was back in Hellions, and he was doing some really good work there, and I enjoyed it. But Zeb, had kind of been here and there previous to that. Yeah.
I remember the conversation be like, oh, okay, interesting choice. We'll see where it kind of nets out. There wasn't, oh my God, it's who? Wells on what? Spider-Man? There wasn't just like a maze.
It was the opposite. People were not happy.
Well, I feel like our conversation kind of spun out into that.
So the run happened, came and went. Obviously, people were pretty upset overall with what Zeb Wells did, although the book remained a top 5 bestseller pretty much throughout. I think maybe you could say it tapered off towards the end, but it still stayed a top 10 book. And now with the 8 deaths, I remember saying this is a stopgap run, and Joe Kelly's going to do this thing here, and then we'll move forward. We'll get a big, new creative team launch. Marvel is staying the course, though. Marvel is staying the course. And again, as I said, they announced via Polygon that it's gonna be Joe Kelly doing the writing on this new run. Joining him is Pepe Larraz. And again, an artist that is a star. Pepe Larraz is as close as Marvel has, other than Pete Momoko, because I think Pete Momoko is a legitimate star. But he's the closest that they have to a star. When they want an event now, Pepe Larraz is the guy. One of the only things he did this year was Blood Hunt for Marvel. Obviously, he did Big Game for Mark Miller. So they bring on Pepe Larraz. That's a huge name. That's going to bring eyes to this book. This is the first time that I can remember Pepe Larraz doing interiors for an ongoing book in, I don't know. I don't even know when the last time was that he did something like that.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of time.
But they're also keeping John Romita Jr. on the book.
That confuses me again. Those are very conflicting styles. And not to say one is better than the other. I don't think that, but they're not complementary at all.
And it's weird because like, who does that appeal to? Like, who does that sharp contrast appeal to? Like, is the idea that, And to be fair, for me, the art has always been the, at least this most recent run, the poorer part for me. It's not the thing that draws me. So for it to switch over to a Pepe Larraz, I'm excited to see those pages more than I am the JRJR pages. And I'll take, Kelly at face value, but it's interesting that, are they gonna write two parts of the same story? Is it gonna be handing off issues? Like, there's a lot that you can do with that kind of setup, but I'm worried if we're flip flopping between artists because yeah, it is so distinct.
Well, we had Ed McGuinness and Junior during Zeb Wells's run, and I think that worked out perfectly. I don't think that was a problem at all.
Yeah, looking back on it, I guess not really. I mean, but it's the same thing where it doesn't feel complimentary, but it didn't
Mm.
bother me actually. Now that I come to think about it, it made
Yeah,
sense for the stories that they were telling, which I hope
yeah.
is what this run could do. Yeah,
And I actually wouldn't be surprised if we see even more people doing interiors because we also had Gleason, I think, did
Gleason did some. Yeah,
some stuff.
he did the one where
Um,
where symbiote Peter got to try and kill Paul.
right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And I think I remember them saying that Ed McGuinness would be back at some point in the new run.
yeah.
So we might even see him make a reappearance. It wouldn't surprise me. But I think it's pretty clear now what it is that Marvel thinks when it comes to Spider-Man, which is the primary readership wants to see tremendous art. They want to see Ramita or one of their legends, one of those, stalwarts, whether it's Ramita, whether you bring back Ramos, whether you bring even back McGinnis, someone who people associate with drawing great Spider-Man. And a writer who's going to tell stories that, feel sort of classic, but also have a bit of a modern flair.
So Sean, remember back during Big Time, where they had a series of writers tackling the book, doing their own stories. It almost feels like that for art. Like, hey, we're gonna put our all-star artists on this book, and the writer is just the connective tissue. It's a steady hand. We'll put on the book, just so there's a narrative through line that makes sense. But the art is gonna kick you on your ass.
I agree with you, but I like personally, I think Zeb Wells did a tremendous job.
I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
Was it like a revolutionary run on Spider-Man? No, no, it wasn't. But I thought it was great. But the art, like if you, I think if I agree with you. I think the art was the draw.
yeah. Because if I look back on that Zeb Wells run, I think of Rec Rap drawn by McGinnis. I think of those McGinnis Green Goblin pages. Like it's amazing art. I even think of like the Kingpin fight between Spider-Man and Kingpin, where it was really close quarters and that Ramita drew.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then I also think of Paul, which is definitely a Zeb Wells thing. But
It also, this kind of like from an editorial standpoint feels like what we're getting with Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee. Bring back, a key artist from another, not time, but of another era that people are familiar with. Bring a writer from a certain era to come back and then have them tell, in this case, not a rehash, but a sequel to their story. Continue that run. In this case, though, they're bringing back those people who are familiar from other eras, even the most recent one, and that's in the case of JRJR, and have those things be the key like the key factors. So it's interesting that we have the two companies here kind of playing into the a bit of that creative nostalgia.
I have a question. Do you think that they're kind of coasting here, right? There's nothing revolutionary happening. I think we can agree with that.
Yeah.
Do you think they feel like they have the room to do that because Ultimate Spider-Man exists?
No. I think they have I think they have the room to do that because Amazing Spider-Man exists.
Yeah, yeah. You're gonna buy it, or you're gonna tell me you're not gonna buy issue number 1 of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 17?
I'd actually love to know which volume it is.
Yeah, well, it's probably not as high as it's probably not even close to that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really feel like I want to rehash this aspect of the conversation because we do it all the time. But Amazing Spider-Man on its own was the number one juggernaut in comics until Ultimate Spider-Man. And even now, it's still a massive seller. So I don't think that they're coasting on Ultimate Spider-Man. I think they're coasting on Amazing Spider-Man. They know they're going to get big time sales. And again, I also suggest that putting Pepe Larraz on a book ain't coasting. I think they know exactly what they're doing. They're just not appealing to us through the writer. And we're so writer brained in this era that if we don't see a writer who's Hickman or Cates or Snyder or Simone, we assume, oh, they're not serving us up something that they're confident in. I think Marvel's very confident.
I think the cover is actually a good indicator as well. The Pepe Larraz cover literally just showcases Spider-Man fighting all of his rogues. And that's a big draw for Spider-Man. Like that doesn't really tell a story, but that tells us tone.
Sure.
It tells us, oh, we're going to hit the greatest hits. You're going to see the villains that you want and Spider-Man fighting them. And I think that's another indicator. It's like, hey, we're just going to give you the Spider-Man you kind of want. Not going to break any boundaries.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was it.
What's funny about that is that we saw all these characters in the Zeb Wells run. Other than Rhino. No, Rhino wasn't even there, I think.
Rhino was there, I think.
Yeah.
We saw all these. He had like a job, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Like I agree with what you're saying. It's just funny because that's the narrative that even Marvel is pushing. They're saying like it's going with a more classic feel. We'll get into the proper announcement and some quotes here in a moment. But like we just saw all these people.
We're going to continue to see them again. Like this is you're going to go back to the well of familiarity with this. You're going to go back to the well of you're just going to go back to the well.
You're going back to the Kelly.
We go back to the Kelly. You're right, exactly. Not the Zeb Wells.
You're getting your writers mixed up. Yeah,
my fault. Yeah, that's right. Figure drawing here says coasting. No, any book drawn by Larraz is not coasting. I think they're putting good talent on a book that otherwise, narratively, is not doing anything amazing. Or
pun intended, Marco. Come on.
Yeah.
It's not House of X.
Right.
It's Amazing Spider-Man, and I think that's the point.
What do you mean that's the point?
Like, Amazing Spider-Man is the seminal book for Marvel in terms of like solo superhero books. That's it. Avengers, X-Men, those are team books. So you kind of just want to give people what they want in Amazing Spider-Man, and not blow the hinges off of lore or break the mold. Just give him Spider-Man fighting his rogues. That's the titular book. That's the one that's going to sell. Put a damn good artist on it.
And I would also say, if you look at the three titles that you mentioned, if we're saying Amazing, we're saying Avengers, and we're saying Uncanny, each one of those books, to me, Uncanny I think is awesome. But in terms of the plot, in terms of like the narrative, the progression, none of those books are lighting the world on fire. Joe Kelly's run right now, I'm not a fan of. I have not been enjoying Amazing Spider-Man at all, and I fully intended to remove it from my stack, assuming that the next era would introduce someone who I was more interested in. But that's not happening. So now I got to rethink my whole shit.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Wait. Hold on. So yeah, I was gonna take it off my stack, but you know what? They have a writer on the book now that I don't really care for. You know what? Let me learn to love the thing that I hate. Hold on a second. Let me learn to hurt.
Damn, we need to send Sean to a battered comic shelter.
Well, there's no world where Pepe Larraz is on art, and I'm not buying that book.
Blood Hunt.
I bought it.
I know.
all of it.
I'm confirming.
And Red Band. I'm not playing around. I'm not missing those pages. So to me, that's the draw. They got me with that. They could have announced Cale on the book, and I would have said, "Ah, shit. Well, there goes 4.99. I gotta get that. I gotta get it." So I have to readjust my thought process behind this book to say, I was just about to cancel this. I got to get ready to buy every single issue of a run that I might not like because I don't care for the way that Joe Kelly writes this character.
Damn.
Here's how I'm justifying it in my head. Because I'm in the same boat as you, Sean. I'm reading the current, 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, and I'm not caring much for it. It's too old school the way it's told, I think. There's a lot of, I know Spider-Man's known for his internal monologuing. There's a lot of it in this run so far. But my justification is, and this is where, it's just, and it sounds like an abusive relationship, is oh, it's only because Joe Kelly has to do this thing that's tied into One World Under Doom and lead it off. So he doesn't have full reign over the story he wants to tell because it's kind of tied into something else. A new number 1 is a good place for him to start fully from scratch and do his thing from the get. And I could be there for it. I'm not liking this run. And I'm still being well, I'll pick up a number 1.
That's where I'm at. I'll pick up the number 1. Let's get past this event, this moment here, and let's see once Larraz gets on the book what that means for the story, what that means for whatever we're doing moving forward for these things, because I want to experience that first.
Even Gavin Guidry in the chat, hey Gavin, saying I just emailed the editor because I'm into Larraz on the book. I mean, I'd be into some Gavin Guidry covers on the book too.
Hey, let's get it.
Let's hit some comics. We should always hit some comics.
Always hit
some comments. I meant to say. Gore Vidal, what's up, Gore? Man, what's up? What's up? I want to say what's up to some people right now. Gore Vidal's here. We got Gore Vidal. We got Figure Drawing. We got Electrics. Thank you. Says here, Sean. Preach. Appreciate you, brother. C.W. Gordon in the house. Uncanny Suit 97. Sean was double dipping. You already know. Figure Drawing says Sean is a man of the people. Yes, I am. Sylph Stevenson is here. That means we can start the show, guys.
Hey.
22 minutes deep. Let's get it going.
Welcome to episode 427.
Marowak Escuro's in the building. Jonathan Chu's in the house. Good to see you all. Those are just the names I can see right now. Smash the like button. Say what's up in the chat. It's good to see you all. Hit that subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Let's do this. Saturday morning, afternoon, night, wherever the fuck you are in the world. Thank you for being here. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. And I appreciate you for that. I was going to read a comment from Gore Vidal that says, at my LCS, there is excitement about Jim Lee returning to Batman. Crickets when it comes to Kelly Romita. Okay, but is it crickets to Kelly and Larraz? That's the question. Because we just had John Romita Jr. on Spider-Man. Jim Lee hasn't come down from the ivory tower in not a decade, but pretty close, to do interiors for let me not even say ongoing, even for a miniseries. When was the last time we had him? Was it Suicide Squad?
It might have been Justice League versus Suicide Squad.
Something like that. Yeah. But we're talking about not in the 2020s. I think that was later in the 2010s.
Pre-COVID, yeah.
So it's a while ago.
I don't think you can compare the two. As much as I'm okay with this creative team announcement, it's fine. It's not Hush Tua, that's saying, hey, the book that is on everyone's must-read list for Batman, we're doing a sequel. That's a bigger deal, and I don't really think it's fair to compare the two.
Yeah, it's a much bigger deal. Absolutely. Let's see. What else do we have here? You guys are talking. I love to see the chatter. Walt Bionic. I've never seen your name before, brother. Welcome. Pepe Larraz, I'm in. Pepe Larraz is the best modern comic book artist. He knocks it out of the park every time. Yeah, man, I'm with you. Pepe Larraz is a beast.
Big pull here.
I think it's a treat to have him on this book. And someone corrected me. The last time he was on Interiors was X-Men, which was with Jerry Duggan. And that was excellent.
Oh, yeah.
That was excellent. So I'm excited to see what he's going to be doing on this book. Marowak Escuro says, "Do you think the problem is that writers don't want to write the book? Why wouldn't they? What kind of writer wouldn't want to write the flagship Marvel comic?"
That
Even with
titular.
the, editorial issues that happen, like Zeb Wells having to kill off Miss Marvel, you know, I can, and I know, I think writers are aware that that'll happen. Um, there should be a want to be able to do that still. It's Spider
Uh,
Man. Like, of
yeah.
course, you're going to want to write Spider Man. You're going to want to put some kind of stamp on that.
As a comic book fan, that is the titular character for what comics are. That and Batman. So like to write one of those two beasts, uh, titans of this industry. Yeah, you got to get excited for that. Just to touch it, man. Jonathan Chu says Kelly's first issue should have just been a relaunch immediately. I'm sure they were trying to figure out timing in between, who's going to pick up the book after. Is this just going to be a intermediary thing? You know, don't. I guess there's some validity to having a slow ramp up into a new arc, a new creative team from after Wells is done, or any and to say any writer gets done with an arc, come in and uh, give it some time before shaking things up.
If you have Pepe Larraz coming in, you don't start the new number one without him.
Yeah,
You start it with him.
yeah.
There's no world where you do it the other way. What else do we have here? Mayo Tango says Spider-Man is dead for me now.
Damn.
I'm sorry to hear that. That really sucks. It really sucks. Just don't at Marvel Editorial about it on
Spiral
social.
Spiral Storm says, I don't think a lot of writers want to write ASM because of the disgruntled Spider-Man fan base. Editorial having their own agenda doesn't help either. I mean, at the end of the day, you tell the story you want to tell. You'll have your masters, but I don't think it's ever to it shouldn't ever be to the fans. Um, they're gonna complain whether you do something one way or the other. At the very least, if there's something coming down the pike from editorial that's mandate. Otherwise, I'm sure you can finagle something within there to the maintain the quality of your story and get across what you need to.
I just don't I don't I don't understand this narrative. Like you think editorial doesn't have mandates for Batman? Like these are not just characters that no one cares about. These are characters that feed families. Like these are characters that exist that keep lights on in buildings. Spider-Man as a character, as an IP, is the reason why Sony is alive. It might also be the reason why they die. But those films are buoyed by the fact that they can make movies with the Spider-Man IP. That is massive. You cannot underestimate what that means.
Which is still kind of wild because they chose not to use Spider Man. But, besides the point, I guess.
That's a whole set. I wish we could have that conversation. Uncanny Suit 97 with the 9.99 super chat. Thank you, Uncanny. That's a reminder that super chats are open if you guys are in the giving mood today. Uncanny says, so happy to have found you guys and this community this year. Your positivity and love for comics is always on full display. Hope everyone here has a fantastic holiday. That's really sweet. Thank you, Uncanny. Really appreciate you, dude.
Only a
Um,
year, huh? Damn.
hell yeah.
It feels like one of those members that's been around for forever at this point, and like
Yeah.
to say just this year, become a big part of the community. So shout outs.
Figure drawing says, Sean, you don't consider Humberto Ramos to be a star? I mean, no. If we're saying stars are the likes of Ramita Jr., Pepe Larraz, Peach Momoko, I wouldn't put Ramos in that tier. Not in terms of quality, definitely. But in terms of star power, no, I would not say that.
I think you're underestimating his draw power. Ramos
Okay.
has like real what's the word I'm looking for? Penetration into like just new people in the comics. Like they see that art style, it looks very modern, it looks a little anime, and I think it really draws people to it.
Yeah, okay, but you that anecdotally is not the same as his name on a book sells comics. That's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about star power, it's the only thing I'm talking about.
I think they've done it with him on Spider-Man before, but never mind. We don't need to go heavy on that.
Connor says, seen nothing but negativity on social media for this. I don't really know what to think, as I've not been a big ASM reader despite loving Spider-Man. I want to hop on for the Larraz art alone. There you go.
Go for it. Shoot.
Larraz is a draw. He puts butts in seats.
That's what the book needs. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it gets it already, but for people to stick around.
Tilo says, Gail Simone, Kelly Thompson, Kieran Gillen, Dennis Camp, Jed McKay. Here are a bunch of names that would make me more interested. Sure, of course those names would make you more interested. But Marvel doesn't need to put those names on the book for people to buy it.
Swap
They
out
don't
the
have to.
artist. That's it. Just not even they add an artist. You keep the whatever's been running there. Yeah, I think, well, maybe with the exception to Jed McKay to some degree, but everyone else there is hot fire. But maybe put those people on books that need the heat.
They're also busy. You just named a bunch of writers that are busy. Kieran Gillen, as far as I'm aware, his whole ass is in the power fantasy.
Yeah, he's taking time off. He did his Marvel run again, and is now decompressing from that. And in that comes art.
Yep. Dennis Camp even announced their own indie book mixed with the Martian stuff that's coming out. Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Gavin Guidry makes a great point. I haven't gone through anything particularly bad myself, but from my perspective, there's no way a fan base would keep me from working on a book I want to work on. And I'm glad you said that, because I really want to dispel that narrative. I don't think that makes any sense. That creators wouldn't want to work on Spider-Man. No, that you're going to be able on your tombstone to put that you wrote Spider-Man. Your children will be able to see that you wrote Spider-Man. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. You got to remember, most of these people grew up reading comics. You think they didn't grow up reading Spider-Man? You think they don't have a connection to this character? Let's be for real.
Born into it.
Yeah.
Them and Batman. Them, Batman, and Goku.
I need to see more writers on Goku.
Where's Jed McKay's Goku?
Tilo says, I just think you should put your biggest name on your biggest book. I totally understand that. I totally get it. But look at it from not from your perspective, right? Look at it from the side of Marvel. Marvel sees that they put out Zeb Wells and John Romita Jr., which people said was the absolute shits. And yet it sold out. Yet it did gangbuster sales. So why should they? They're not incentivized to do that. And I wouldn't even necessarily argue that that's been Marvel's strategy in a while.
Yeah.
For any book other than X-Men under Hickman, but that was a singular, unique thing that they were doing. I don't think that that's Marvel's strategy right now.
Well, it was relaunching and reintroducing them into the Marvel Universe. So that kind of momentous occasion, you do that. For this is carrying on of a narrative of a series that, why are you gonna make that big of an announcement over something that is just, let's continue doing business as usual. And I would also think, let's say of the Amazing Spider-Man fans, of Marvel readers who buy that book, let's say out of all the Marvel books, 80% of them already buy Spider-Man. You're saying a huge announcement is going to get them to 85%, maybe 90%. So realistically, what does it even matter from a numbers perspective? Like, I don't need to pay somebody that much for that big of a relaunch if I already know that I'm going to get an X percentage amount of people already buying that book. It's locked in.
Corpo Marco strikes again.
Hey, dude, it's just numbers at that point.
How do we make sure our profit margins are beneficial for the people at top?
That's it.
The top 1%.
And also, I'm not arguing that I don't want to see that. I'm just saying that
we
they
all do.
don't need to do that.
Yeah. I would
Um,
prefer it.
yeah. Let me ask you guys this, and then we'll get into the announcement. I know I keep saying that. Let me ask you guys this: who would you have preferred? All respect to Joe Kelly. This is not a shit on Joe Fest, but if we're being real, who would you have preferred to see?
I'm not even joking. My first thought was Spider-Man. Okay, New York City, street level. Oh, put Jed McKay on it. He's doing real good on Moon Knight. And I'm liking X-Men. You know what? Give him the trifecta. Give it to Jed McKay.
I would die.
Camp's hungry right now. He has good perspectives on relatively younger people. What does it mean for like what does that mean for the characters and the life that surrounds Peter Parker?
My answer is look. I know that a lot of people will not get behind this. That is okay. My answer is Brian Bendis.
What?
I'm actually in. I'm in. He
For AM
I don't want to say he's
Amazing?
floundering, but he's kind of just doing his own creator own thing. I haven't read any of it. But that would be a big announcement.
If we're at the place where Joe Kelly is the guy, right? And that's where we're looking. And we're saying we're cool with leading with writers who aren't necessarily like whose name brand isn't lighting the world on fire right now. Bendis makes a lot of sense. That's one of the only Tyler, you know how in wrestling there's dream matches. Bendis on Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man is a dream creative pairing for me. And it's one of the last ones left.
And then there is like the new blood too of Pepe Larraz. It's like, oh, Bendis he wasn't around when Bendis was around. So that's like your John Cena Gunther match there, to keep the wrestling analogy going. It's new blood versus old blood. See what kind of chemistry they have.
Larraz, Bendis, Ramita, I love it. I love it. Let that man do it. The same way that Scott Snyder is returning to the scene of the crime with Absolute Batman and putting everything he has into it and doing an amazing job. I believe Bendis has enough left in the tank to deliver a stellar, Amazing Spider-Man run. And the only way that it could be any better is if he gets to use Paul. I want to see Bendis' take on Paul.
Fall in love, cucketry,
No,
cuckoldry.
Bendis would make him a villain. He would go full villain with him, I think.
Yo, Ultimate Paul. I once you made that analogy to Scott Snyder right now, or the connection to Scott Snyder, I was like, okay, all right. I see. I can see how that can change the direction creatively for Spider-Man.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is that at least Snyder has been doing a lot of varying things in the time since. Bendis has worked on TV for a bit. Powers had a show on PSPs, whatever the hell it was.
That's right.
And I would be interested to see if Bendis would have a new take on Spider-Man. I mean, I guess it's amazing. He never did that, so yeah.
Right.
That's the thing. He never did amazing. Of course, obviously he wrote Spider-Man in mainline on occasion, but not in a proper series. And on top of that fact, Bendis has done a lot of different things. Bendis has been making the indie rounds for years. All of Bendis's books since he left DC have been indie. So I think there's a lot to the idea that, he spent a lot of time away from Spider-Man. At the very least, it's been a decade since his time with the character ended, he might have something interesting to say.
It's been about a decade. Yeah, because it was Miles.
Spiral Storm re-ups his Comics Pals VI Pals membership. 7 months a member, and says Sean, no Paul. Spiral, look, man, I
Sean Paul?
understand it. No, not Sean.
No, Sean,
Paul.
not no,
Sean,
not
no
no
Paul.
Paul.
Shut up,
Right,
Paul.
sorry.
That was, dude. People always give me that shit, like because there's others named Sean and that are famous. I'm always Sean Paul. I'm always fucking Sean Kingston, Sean Carter. Like no.
Now I got Sean Paul stuck in my head right now.
I hear it.
Fuck.
Don't make me do.
Oh my God, Sean Soapbox, get it right. Um, all right, let's get to the announcement. Let's get to the announcement that Marvel put out an hour into the discussion. Polygon exclusively revealed that we would be getting the relaunch with a new number one in April of 2025, which is interesting timing considering that we do have the Hush 2 arrival in a similar time frame. I think that's March. So, yeah. Joe Kelly, Pepe Larraz, John Romita Jr., of course. And they're touting that this is a return to form, a little bit more of a classic vibe and feel. Quote, we're going to see a major Spider-Man villain is working behind the scenes, weaponizing other Spider-Man villains, including one we haven't seen in over 7 years. I wonder who that is.
7 years seems like a while, but in terms of like comic book reader brain, that's yesterday.
Yeah.
So like I don't know who's been gone that short, like that doesn't seem long to me. Is it Hobgoblin maybe? No, that was Nick Spencer's run.
2017 puts us in the Nick Spencer run territory.
No, I guess it could be Hobgoblin then. He's pretty prominent on the cover.
Could it be Harry? Because wasn't Harry the final villain in that? And then
it was the worm guy.
That would suck. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any great thoughts on who it could be. And I kind of feel like it's not going to be anybody that cool, to be honest with you.
Varney.
Stop it, Marco.
Oh, he's in Marvel Rivals right now, so I'm not.
He's in Marvel Rivals?
He's the Spider-Verse guy, right?
Varney's
the vampire,
the vampire guy from Bloodhunt.
Oh, shit. No, scratch that.
All right, so Joe Kelly said humility is a good start. Even though this is a new number one, I don't think of it as a restart per se. I'm writing the next chapter of the story of one of the world's greatest characters, lucky enough to follow in the footsteps of folks before me. After that sinks in, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I love about Spider-Man and his cast, what stories resonated with me at different times in my life, and how I can synthesize all of that into something that works with what came before, but breaks new ground. I'm fascinated by the internal lives of these characters and exploring new territory there. Peter's youth is interesting, for examples. For example, the days before he was puny Parker in high school. At the same time, I feel a drive to take bold, unexpected swings in order to see how Spider-Man deals with Marvel-sized curveballs. Pressure makes diamonds. Okay. All right. For his part, Pepe Larraz talked about this. The most important part of Spider-Man that I wanted to portray accurately is Peter. Of course, I can talk about drawing a believable New York. I shot hundreds of pictures of details of the city for reference, or how I focused on drawing the flow of Spidey's movements and speed in a way closer to animation than comics. But I think Spider-Man comics work because we care about Spider-Man and his world, Peter and his world. So that was my main focus, to draw a Peter that you instantly recognize and empathize with. Fortunately, Joe's script is fantastic, and he captured Peter's voice in a way so perfect that made the work much easier for me.
Okay. He's excited for the book. He's coming in thinking about the body language, supposed to, I guess, the descriptors, right? He's thinking about how to communicate to us. So cool on Laraz's part.
Seems like kind of just a return to just standard Spider-Man comics. Like the announcement rings true for what I feel about the announcement.
But I feel like people are gonna take that to be, is it like mean a bad thing? That, oh look, they're not shaking these things up. They're, they're just farting out books.
And I think that's just opinion at this point, and everyone has them. They all smell like assholes. What's the phrase? I don't know. But yeah, I've been around the block long enough to just know, like, all right, this is fine. I'm not gonna hate it. I'm not gonna love it. I'll read it and see what it becomes.
Yeah,
It has a chance to surprise me.
and yeah, exactly right. At best, it has the chance to like blow your socks off, and that's a good thing.
Well, Nick Lowe said, I didn't think we could get Joe for a substantial run of Amazing Spider-Man. He's always so busy with animation and television and movies, so he usually just dips in and out of comics. That's why we tapped him for the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man. He was doing great. He was doing so great, so when he asked if we'd consider him for being the ongoing writer, I felt like I won the lottery. Add Pepe Larraz's masterful and supersonic talent to the equation, and we knew he had the makings of an instant classic. Then John Romita Jr. agreed to stay on. Fireworks went off. I better go buy some lottery tickets. So Marvel is clearly happy with the creative team. Obviously, they wouldn't have put it on if they weren't. They're happy with Joe Kelly, and what Joe is doing right now in 8 Deaths. So much so that they were over the moon when he came and said he would like to stay on the title. If Marvel's happy, then I don't know. Who am I to say boo about it? Like, I'm going to not support it, but I'm going to see what this is about. Pepe Larraz and Marta Gracia is not a visual team to ignore. They're not. They have to be seen. And
No.
because of that, Joe Kelly gets a chance from me.
The art outweighs everything else and kind of sells you. Kind of in
Yeah.
the same boat. And honestly, I am one of those readers where the character sells me. I'm gonna read a Spider-Man book. I've read every one since high school. Which is a wild, like, I've read every issue of Amazing Spider-Man since high school. It's gonna take a lot to get me to not read this.
Did they finally are they finally back to meat and potatoes?
Finally.
That's all this book has been. That's why people
Yeah,
complain.
what was Zeb Wells doing?
That Cole here says, wasn't Zeb Wells' run pitched as a return to form too? I mean, again, it's what this book is meant to be, right? Meat and potatoes comics. You fight your rogues, get some cool artists on it, and you try not to stir the boat too much to provide a consistent product. Oof.
The thing that, like, I have a pretty decent memory. Like, my memory is pretty decent. It's pretty long. I remember that during the Dan Slott era, not only did people want to kill the man for Superior, but they also wanted to kill him for giving Peter a big boy job. They wanted to kill him for making him a CEO. They wanted to kill him because he wasn't dating Mary Jane and he was dating what was her name, Anna Lucia or whatever her name was. Like, people haven't been happy. They have not been happy. I don't think Nick Spencer's run was that well received. But notice the back to basics angle. What does it do? It appeals to older readers of Spider-Man. And it appeals to readers who don't want the character to change that much. Dan Slott, say whatever you want. I think his run was great. There was a lot of change. He did a lot of things that were big. And then what? They retracted.
Always.
It's comics.
Wait, what if the villain returning is Superior Spider-Man? Wait, no, he was around in 7 years. Okay, never mind.
Ugh.
It was that book.
Ugh. Yeah, Gavin. Yeah, I think when we did that conversation about artists who sell comics, Pepe Larraz was one of the names that I used because I do believe that Pepe Larraz is a star. So to me, this lines up. But if you threw a lot of other people's names in that slot, I would be speaking very differently. He is a star. There are like 5 people I can name right now that I think have that type of name value. And a majority of them are not in their prime.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
like that you would want to see come back.
no, that their prime years are behind them, but their name value is so high that
Oh,
people will show up. Like Jim Lee. I'm not trying to speak on the quality of his work now. I think his work is tremendous. But most people would agree with me that the prime of Jim Lee's career is not today. And yet, his name value is extremely high. Rob Liefeld's name value is extremely high. Whether you think he sucks or not, it doesn't matter. Rob
sure.
Liefeld's comics will sell. Pete Pomoko's comics will sell.
Do
This
you
is what I'm
think
saying.
And Eminem falls into that?
I think his comics will sell, yes. I think Stuart Immonen is a star.
No doubt. No doubt.
Well, but is he at a point where he's past his prime? Is he still floating there?
I can't even remember the last time I saw his work, but I've never ever like questioned Stuart Immonen's work. I always think it's stellar, so I don't know.
The last time I remember him was Spider-Man, maybe, actually. End of Slot's run.
Didn't he do what book did he do with Mark Miller? Didn't he have a Mark
He
Miller
did
book?
Empress, but that was way before.
Empress.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So then where's he at?
He retired.
Oh well,
Yeah.
So there you
He said
go.
he retired. Yeah, he's not.
Oh, did he actually?
yeah, he retired.
That's
I mean,
beautiful.
he might come
man.
back eventually for something, but I think right now he's just like, I'm good.
Whoa, hold on. That why are we so quiet about that?
That's good news.
Stuart Immonen
Yeah.
retired?
Yeah, like years ago.
But what artist have you heard of who
That
just
retired?
fucking retired?
Well,
Yeah.
because Gavin keeps buying his pages, the guy's got money.
Wow. No, that's something that like what our people don't get to retire with grace.
Yeah, Eminem. Yeah, him and his wife are just chilling now. Yeah,
Oh, he says Gavin says he's been doing covers.
he has been doing
Okay.
it. Yeah, but in terms of like interiors, he's just like, I'm good. He's
Hey,
kind of
man.
coasting now.
Get it?
He's not
Hats
doing
off.
the John Romita Jr. like, I'm just breaking my back still. It's fine.
Right. Congratulations. That's amazing. I love that. I love that for him. Tilo says we can say that DC is better than Marvel these days, and the content that Marvel puts out is just not making waves. I would say that, like for my personal taste, yeah, I would say that. But like, make no mistake, this book is going to sell. Marvel is going to sell an assload of Spider-Man number ones.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, especially with all the variants they're gonna put out for that. Insane.
Ooh.
All the variants, $5 to $6.99 price point. Pepe Larraz on interiors for however many issues. That's a hot seller.
That's crazy, dude. If we're $5.99 it's been $5.99.
Just wait for the red band too.
I just mean the first issue. The first issue is gonna be, they're gonna milk that shit. They're gonna get every dollar and cent they can.
Just like a little bit oversized, maybe 32 pages.
Right.
Feed him a little bit, you know.
Yeah. Michael Nadeau says, haven't tried out a Spider-Man run since Wells. Didn't hate it, just fell off. So I might try this out. I've never read much mainline Spider-Man outside the first volume of Spencer and Wells' run. Well, a new number one is always a new opportunity to jump on board. And by the way, that's why Marvel does this. I am disgusted by seeing Amazing Spider-Man with a number one on it. That's me. That's how I am. I'm disgusted by that. But for somebody like Michael Nadeau, whose comics journey just began, he can dip his toe into the water now. So good for you. That's why they do it. One of the reasons, at least.
Ain't it the way?
Get Shitty says, I'd love if the comics industry made it plausible for people in it to retire. So would I. I would love it if they didn't retire because they physically can't do it anymore, and then we have to support their GoFundMe so these people can stay alive. It'd be great if they worked in an industry where they were able to retire and have a fund of their own fund, because of the money that they earned through their hard work throughout their career, money that's commensurate with their effort. But that doesn't happen. Sad.
401k for comics.
Wouldn't that be nice? I want to live in a world where we don't need a comic book defense fund or whatever that.
The legal defense fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to live in a world where that isn't required, but alas.
Yeah, dude, and where you're right, where they can retire, they can dip into something for their savings. They don't have to work and die at the table.
Yep. Spiral Storm says, "What's everyone thinking of this Doctor Doom stuff? I probably won't read it. I'm thinking it's ass. That's what I'm thinking."
I'm thinking the Spider-Man stuff, the 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, is not my jam.
Yeah.
Even a cover, an Emma Guinness cover, where Spider-Man's the Juggernaut bitch, that's not even enough to light my pants on fire. It feels real stopgap, so that's why I was a little confused by the announcement. But after mulling it over, I understand it.
James says, "Can someone explain the whole Red Band thing since I've been out of Marvel books since Death of Wolverine?" James, we got you, brother. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So Red Band is this concept where Marvel charges you $1 more for nothing. No, I'm just kidding. They charge you $1 more and they give you a polybagged issue, and the interiors have a little bit more blood, a little bit more violence, stuff that they can't do in the regular edition because of ratings. Now, I would say that is a bit of a stretch. There certainly are things that we've seen in regular books that are worse than Red Band, more bloody, more gory, but that's their excuse. Personally, I have made a vow not to buy Red Band comics in 2025. Make up your own mind, as you will.
Right, in the new year only.
In the new year only.
Correct.
And not counting Wolverine Revenge.
Right. Whenever that finishes.
Yeah.
Marco, how quickly do you think there's an announcement that is catered specifically to Sean to make him break that vow?
Yeah, at some point.
What would it take?
A new Jean Grey issue.
Jean Grey Red Band. But because
Yo.
I don't know what the Red Band would be covering in that, I would have to see that.
Jean Grey polybagged, and it stars Cyclops and Wolverine on the cover.
All right, now you're getting into Dynamite Comics territory.
That's Antarctic Press. Like what?
Oh my goodness. Ben Loudly said had it the first time. That's hilarious, brother. Oh my goodness. So ultimately, I think that Spider-Man is in fine hands. I don't think that this is the doom and gloom announcement that some of our listeners are feeling. Some of the commenters are feeling. I've seen a lot of negative. And look, I'm not over the moon excited about this announcement for the Joe Kelly part. I get it. But think about what you're getting. You're getting Pepe Larraz. You're getting Marta Gracia. Marvel doesn't bring them out for much. All right? So you're getting two superstars. And you're getting John Romita Jr., another superstar. That's hot. That's hot. And I want to see what that looks like. I'm seated.
Yeah,
I'm seated.
Appreciate what you got. You know, like give it a shot. That's why it's a number one. I give all number ones a shot, and you can tell pretty quickly if it's for you or not. Spider-Man's a separate story because I will read it even if I don't like it. I'm one of those guys. But just give it a shot.
Yeah. Amin Perez says, "What up, pals? How you guys doing? It's good to see you, brother.
Hey.
Welcome. We're talking ASM.
The CW Gordon says, I love how every discussion about Amazing Spider-Man is ultimately summed up by, it's Amazing Spider-Man, it'll sell.
Hey, man. Prove me wrong. Don't buy it. I dare you not to buy it. You can't.
I'm not even coming from that place. I'm coming from the place of, I do think there are bankable stars on this project. I think two of them are artists, and one of them is the character. If, like, genuinely, this is how I feel. If you told the public Amazing Spider-Man, written by Joe Schmo and, Nancy Nobody.
Joe Schmo from the early 2000s reality show? Joe Schmo?
Schmo, what's that shit called? Schmo's Nose or something?
No, it was the one where it was like The Bachelor, but they pretended that it was.
Yo, yes. Yes, they pretended that he didn't
And
have
he was like
money, but
he
he
was actually
actually
a
was.
bum the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, he was rich, and they told the girl at the end, "Oh, by the way, I'm a millionaire, Joe Millionaire." I
The
think it
Joe
was.
Schmo show.
Oh, okay, the Joe Schmo
Yeah,
show.
there was a lot of shitty reality. Oh man, if I ever did another podcast, it would be talking about shitty reality TV from the early 2000s.
Dude, I have a history with that stuff.
So do I.
We could
I'm
talk about.
grown on it.
We could do a whole season on VH1.
Oh, easily. I can talk about Flavor of Love and Something when she makes something on the steps. The Spit with New York and Pumpkin.
Bro, oh my God.
So
dude.
honestly, if you announce Joe Schmo on a comic, I'm in. That just brings me into my sweet spot.
Oh my God. Sorry for that random
Yo,
tangent.
I had to pull that up. It was just wild.
Hell yeah, bro.
It's before you were born, Marco.
But if you made that announcement, if you said Joe Schmo and Nancy Nobody, people wouldn't buy the book. It isn't like ASM will literally sell no matter what. I don't believe that. That is not true. What is true is that if you give people something to hang on to, if you give them some stars, if you pepper it in, it'll work. And I also think Spider-Man is not every other character. People really care who the artist is because this character has a history of being drawn by some of the greatest artists of all time. And it matters more with Spider-Man who the artist is. I firmly believe that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I think Spider-Man, it's a very visual medium in terms of it's comics, obviously. But I think it depends. It really matters who's on the art for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Atomic Hound makes a great point. The Pals Discord is the best place in the galaxy for ongoing discussion regarding all the latest news, views, and reviews of comics related info. Join our wide world community to get really connected. Discord is completely free. That is absolutely correct.
In the galaxy. Man, I heard some good discords on Omicron Persei 8 this time of cycle. So it's nice to know that the Pals Discord is even better than that.
Was that English?
And Jambon ones were crazy.
Yeah, and speaking of the Discord, you know what? I'm on the Comics Are Dope Discord, and they've got more people than us. And I feel like we should get more people on here. Like we should have I want a competition. I want a friendly competition with us and BJ Kicks of Comics Are Dope. I want us to have more people on our Discord. We've got 308.
You want us to do more moderation?
Please. Like you guys do moderation.
I can't do it. I don't have it. We haven't figured out my account.
Yo.
I can barely get into some of the chats. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. We lost the chat with the reality TV convo. Damn.
I know. We're all of a certain age, I think.
I was watching what is it? Takeshi's Castle.
Oh,
MXC,
you mean most extreme elimination challenge? Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
Marco Baba Ganoush.
I love that shit. Oh, Baba Good News guy.
Banksy Main says Tila Tequila. That was a moment. She pivoted though. She pivoted into a weird area. I'll leave it there. It's a dark woman. Revolutionary Dragon says don't care for art so long as it's not atrocious. Story has to be good. Comics too expensive to only like the art. That is subjective. I think that personally, I think story is extremely important. It's more important to me as an individual. And I agree with you that I think the majority of people feel the way you feel. And I think that the big two have conditioned us to think that way and to feel that way. And I feel like I have evidence to prove it. That being said, though, make no mistake, people care who draws Spider-Man. They care a lot.
I would say even in saying that was a Revolutionary Dragon, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, hey, art doesn't matter to me unless it's not atrocious. Like, as long as it's not atrocious. I'm like, oh, then it does matter.
Then it matters.
And atrocious is then subjective. So art does matter to you, even maybe minimally compared to writing, but it still matters.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no world where the art doesn't matter in comic books.
Then I would be drawing, you know?
Dude, if art didn't matter in comics, I'd have a fucking career, but I can't draw for shit. Sorry.
We need to draw stick figures. That's it.
Marco, you want to team up?
Yo,
You and me, brother.
I had when I was younger, I did a whole thing of just all stick figures. I had like 20 pages of something.
I feel like Marco's art style would look like a very, very emotionally abused child in therapy. Just a lot of just heavy crayon marks. Yeah.
Scratch.
With like a demon in there somewhere. Like, oh, okay, cool.
All the eyes are X's.
Yep. Padded room for this one.
Hey, I didn't realize that all I had to do was say join the Discord and you guys would actually do it. 3 of you just jumped on right now. That's beautiful. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. Let's hit a few more comments before we close out. Amin Perez says, I volunteer to be a mod, Sean. I promise I won't ban whoever disagrees with me. Wink, wink. You know, I mean, if I were going to make anybody a mod, you're actually literally my first choice. You and Atomic Hound are the first people that come to mind when I think about mods. Gavin Guidry says, and by the way, we haven't mentioned it. Buy Gavin's Uncanny X-Men number 12. He was just announced as doing interiors for that. That's very special to him. Obviously, Gavin, well, maybe it's not obvious to you guys, but Gavin, being from New Orleans, deep connection to that world, to that space. He's going to be drawing Gambit, who is, of course, you know, one of Gavin's favorite characters, deep connection there. So I can't wait to see that, and congrats to Gavin.
I hope Gavin gets to draw some cats there. That'd be fun.
Yeah, like what are you looking forward to drawing other than Gambit? What else is there to draw that you're like, yeah, I got to bring that representation to the fold? Oh, but Gavin actually had a comment I wanted to read. It was, damn it, I lost it.
Was the one where it says that there are tons of readers who take the opposite tack and can handle mediocre writing, but not mediocre art. I think that's where I am. If you're going to put me on the spectrum, well, I took a test. I might be. But I think the art ekes out in terms of weight for me.
Well, it's the first thing you see. It's that visual. That's what carries the initial perception. So it almost has to. You're forced to kind of live by it.
I also feel like, you know, there are people, you know, people have different opinions and it's all subjective, but I do believe that when you look at the way the big two market their books, they're marketed more around who's writing. And that isn't great, I don't think. But I also think historically there's a reason for that. And it goes to Image Comics. And it goes to what happened when those people left the companies. Marvel and DC were affected by that. Marvel primarily. They ain't letting that happen again.
I also think, especially with the way the global marketing comics is such a global thing now, it's just easier to market around writers because they can speak to it. I think there's a lot of artists who maybe don't have English as their first language. Just so for press and stuff like that, it might be easier to talk to a writer.
That is also true.
And having done interviews with both writers, they have the gift of gab a little more for that kind of thing.
Also, you know, it's different to talk about. I feel like it's more accepted to talk about the technique of a character than it is, you know, oh yeah, here's the thickness of this, you know, ink I'm using.
All right. Damn, so many good comments. Electric says, I can get blown away by great art with some tacky writing. Both can do it for me as long as the storytelling is great. Sometimes writing doesn't do it, but art sequences are totally killer. Yeah, I mean, it goes every way. Like, I don't know. Sometimes there are books where I'm like, man, this is written so well that I don't mind that I don't care for the art. But there are other times when I read a book where I'm like, the art is so good. No, actually, I can't say that. That doesn't happen.
Yeah,
for me,
you're not that guy.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. But this might be one of those times. I don't know.
For me, it doesn't happen, but hopefully, you know,
could be the first. There's always a first.
The first time. Yo, Marco, whenever you take your glasses off, it blows me up. Like,
I'm sorry, I just had these like little squigglies on it. I gotta.
It's like when a cartoon character takes his glasses off.
I want to love it. I do want to love it. Like everything I've said, I want to love this run. So hopefully it Joe Kelly's stuff works for me in this new run. Hopefully it's just the fact that it's the 8 deaths bullshit that I don't care about. I don't know. But I want it to work. So I'll be there. I'll be seated. All right. We've got a lot more show to do. Don't turn that dial. 84 of you with us right now hanging out. Smash that like button if you haven't. If you've been enjoying the show. There are lots of ways you can support. Subscribe to the channel if you are not. We want to get to 5,000 subscribers. That's not going to happen this year, obviously, because there's only...
Improbable.
Improbable,
Sure.
But hey, make a couple burners. It's cool.
Right.
It's like a couple hundred.
Get us there then, damn it. There are 10 days left in the year. Make it happen.
I ain't no quitter. Let's do it.
Just add keep adding a number to it.
Of course, patreon.com/thecomicspals is the best way to support us. We appreciate all super chatters. We appreciate all channel members. Patreon is the best way to show your support. It is a podcast that is exclusively supported by you guys. And we appreciate that. I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to some of our Palsverse members. I'll get to the rest that I don't say here a little bit later. So I want to give a special shout out to our Palsverse legends, Thunderstruck Rebecca Alejandro, the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound, Starcross Catherine Stars, the Red Spiral, Spiral Storm, Adam and Bernie, the Best Boy, the Spear of Judgment, Jay's Jumble. And thank you to Palsverse members, the Night Stalker Harris Dajinski, who's in my DMs right now, Brian Demolishado Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Marley Manastorm, Slow Flow Dameron, Christian Uncaged, Always Laughing, The Spear of Justice, Izzy Spears, The Great Destroyer, Hyper Viper 89, Robert Runback Keshabak, Pete the Dreamweaver Collins, Matthew Mellis Price, and James Just Jamming Jones. Thank you all so much. If you did not hear your name, that is because your name will be announced a little bit later in the show, breaking it up for your sanity and mine, because the list is getting long, guys, which we are very thankful for. My wildest dreams, I didn't imagine I'd be running out of breath announcing all of the patrons. So thank you. Woo. Uncanny Suit says, I will make 550 burner accounts if you ask nicely. It's a lot of burners.
Get us right there. We'll make the remaining 20. That's fine. Are we asking?
No. And you know why we're not asking? all realness. We're not asking because I'm proud of the fact that our subscriber number is a real one. And it represents mostly pretty activated people. Like, you guys show up. You guys show up. And I love that. Yeah. Like, we see the growth in subscribers, and it's commiserate with the amount of people that are here in the chat, the amount of people that, watch the shows afterwards. It's a beautiful thing.
And Atomic Hound makes a good point. Electrix asked, how many subscribers that have the pals guarded this year alone? We can get 1,000 folks in the Discord next year. I believe it. I can believe. And Atomic replies, yeah, celebrated 2K and 4K just this year.
Wow.
Wild.
It's a beautiful thing, boys. I love it. Love it.
More!
Style So Serious says, I'm calling fraud, pals. Tom King's Wonder Woman has great art, but you can't get past the dialogue. Well, that's not true for Tyler. That's true for me.
I like it all around. So.
Yeah, same for me. Not that I like it all around. I won't read it. I can't read it. I can't read it, frankly.
Same for me, except the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could get Semper, the art, without the words, or just without the fucking sovereign, bro, I don't know. I'm not going to get on a whole Wonder Woman. Style So Serious trying to trigger me.
Go digital and start photoshopping.
Yeah, because I'm going to put in all that work. If I'm going to do Photoshop, I'd rather do it for the show.
The Sean cut.
Spiral Storm says, hopefully my annoyance with Amazing Spider-Man doesn't ruin the vibes. You know what? It doesn't. Because this place, this community is not strictly about positivity. It's about reality. And if the reality for you is you're not loving it, that's valid to say. And you have every right to say that right here. And I defend your right to say that. Even if I don't necessarily agree with you, that's not a problem. Us agreeing is not a requirement for entry here. So no worries, Spiral. You're a real one. MTG says, just got in here and wondering if you guys have any interest in the new Hellhunters comic dropping next week. Brother, are you kidding me? Of course we do. That is Philip Kennedy Johnson. I am ready. I am ready and waiting. Stood.
It's PKJ doing Marvel Inglorious Bastards, right?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, bro. That's a
40s.
massive green flag from me. I can't wait. It's going to be hot. Uncanny Suit says, if anyone deserves to have their opinion represented 500 times more here, it is me. But I respect your decision to stay true, pals. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious.
Jamzilla, you guys rock. Hey man, you rock for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Jam. Jay Sage says, like I always say, really grateful I found this channel. Well, I'm really grateful you found it too, bro. Thank you for being here. I want to talk really quickly before we get to our Image 2010s picks for the countdown. We're going to do our number 3 and number 2 this week. Before we get to that, I want to talk to you guys about the book club, because the East of West book club, because that's the book you guys chose to represent Image of the 2010s. I think that's really interesting. That book club is coming on the 30th. So December 30th, which is a Monday, not our traditional Tuesday affair, because that Tuesday is New Year's Eve and, you know, people have lives and stuff, I guess. So we're going to do it on the 30th. Come prepared to talk about the first half of East of West. So I think that equates to the first 5 trades.
That's about right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I ordered. So that's what I'm going to be reading. I couldn't get a collected version, so I had to buy 5 trades. You know how much of a douchebag I felt like?
I hope people pointed their fingers and laughed at you.
I bought it through Amazon.
Oh,
All right, chat. You
not
know what
even,
to do.
not even in stock trades.
Yeah,
We
I don't
have
have
time.
time.
Limit. Yeah, we have a time limit. In stock trades has trades, but they come very slowly.
They might not be in stock the moment you order them. Well, they'll take your money.
Easily.
Yeah, so that's going to be at 6 p.m. on Monday, December 30th. Come prepared to talk about East of West, Nick Dragata. If you're into Absolute Batman, he's the man on that book. And then, of course, Jonathan Hickman, the man who is just the man in comics. He's one of the best working comics writers, certainly today, maybe even of all time. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Absolute Overthinker says, hey, y'all, just woke up. Been sick as hell all week. Hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. Hey, dude, sorry you're feeling bad, man. Sorry you're feeling bad. Hope you feel better. This is a rough time for illnesses. You know, the flu's running around, all that good stuff.
Knock you out.
Hell yeah. All right. Speaking of Image, we've been doing this month our Image Comics Top 5 of the 2010s era. So that discounts books like Invincible, books like The Walking Dead, because they started earlier. We have to present now our number 3 and our number 2 picks. Marco, why don't you kick us off with 3 and 2?
Yeah. So my number 3 is a littler known book. They're Not Like Us. It's only about 15 issues. Eric Stevenson, Simon Gain, Jordi Belair, and I actually at the time was following all of the books that Jordi in particular. I loved her as a colorist. Anything that she had her name on, I was picking up simply because she was attached to it. And I came across this book, and really it's about these like kids of like mischief and runaways, and they're in their early to late teens, and they live in this kind of like halfway house, and they have abilities. They're essentially mutants. They have some level of psychic ability, each and every one of them, that allows them to do different things. Some have mind control, some have telekinesis, some have whatever, some variation of that, and they're just trying to figure out how they can live together collectively. But there's a mystery kind of percolating in the background where their leader is not what he seems to be. And so it deals with them coming into young adulthood and at the same time dealing with whatever machinations their supposed protector is working with. I really loved it. It was a book that for me felt very like super indie at the time that it was coming out. I think in 2015 it started. And again, there's only 16, 17 issues of this one. I have all of these in physical. I still have them collected. I really, really love this book because it had this cool technique of the cover was actually the first panel of every issue. And so it would go from the cover straight into the next page. So yeah, all around really, really interesting. I think I would recommend it. It's worth your time.
Is that Eric Stevenson, like the man in charge at Image? Eric Stevenson?
Yeah. He's one of the few comics that he came back. He's just like, I have a story to tell.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. And Simon Gaines' art really, really good. Again, Jordan Bale on colors. Highly, highly recommend. My number my number two is Prophet by hold on. Trying to get the list of artists on this one. It came back with Brandon Graham, and we had artists like Simon Roy, Farrell Dalrymple, Giannis Milogiannis, all coming out of this kind of revamp of the original Prophet. It started with issue number 21 in the relaunch and back in 2012, and I just loved the scope of this book and what the adventure felt like. It felt like a pure sci-fi adventure story that, who knew where the bounds to these things were. And so I'm highly recommend the book. It's inventive. It does weird stuff with the format, and Brandon Graham's writing and some of the art styles included, they really speak to me. And so I'm a huge fan all around of this. Highly, highly recommend it.
Awesome. All right, Tyler.
Yeah, so my number 3 is actually a book by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans, and that is Die. Die is Kieran Gillen doing Kieran Gillen shit. It is a group of kids who play this. It's essentially D&D, but they play a tabletop game that they then get sucked into, or they get sucked into, and then they leave, and you don't know what happened. It's like, oh, they were gone for like 5 years. These kids were missing. They don't know what happened, and then they grow up, and that's we start with them as grown-ups, and this had happened in their past. They'd gone to this fantasy world they were sucked into, almost like Narnia, and now they've had to live life past there. One of them wrote a book about it, became a celebrity. One of them's just like a doctor, and as adults, they remember, like, there was another kid with us who never came back, and we don't know where he is. And we've all, some of us forgot about it. Some of us forced ourselves to forget about it, and we all moved on. But now that has come back to haunt them, and they have to go back to that world and see how much it's changed, because now the kid that was there is essentially the DM of this world, and rewrote all of the rules, and they have to kind of react to that. Kieran Gillen even wrote a tabletop game for it that you can play. Rules are in like the back of the issues or the collections that you can do. It's really, really freaking good. Stephanie Hans, you might remember as like a cover artist. And like I was not really too familiar with her interior stuff. I think she did like Angela as well, the Thor sister, Neil Gaiman creation. But it's a really, really, really fun book. High fantasy, high sci-fi. Highly recommend. And it's fully completed. It's one of the few Image books that's completed so far. That's on my list.
Yo, it sounded like Jumanji for a hot second.
It's a bit like Jumanji. Yeah, you're not wrong. There's a bit of a Jumanji.
I saw that for the like first time this past year.
The original?
Yeah, like Robin Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were gonna be like, yeah, Jack Black, right? And I was gonna punch you through the camera. And my number 2 is Saga. Not done.
Uh,
Saga's not done. It is still ongoing. I am way behind, but Saga was just a breath of fresh air when it came out. Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples, you know, the first words, the first page is just like ingrained in my brain. It's Alana giving birth, and it just says, "I feel like I'm shitting," and that sets the tone for the book going forward. It's real good sci-fi book. It deals with war, but it really deals with love. It's really a romance book at its core. Very, very, very violent romance book. Nobody's safe. They constantly, and unexpectedly, just change the status quo in that book constantly, and I love everything about it. Even though I'm so behind on it, I think it was hampered by its delays or its planned vacations. I'm glad the team could do that, and they felt like they could do that and have time off to be able to cook. But I think as a monthly book, it suffered, but it's still number 2 for me easily.
Okay, I'm wondering if I was wondering like where Saga would place um for us collectively, and I mean you're the first person to mention it.
Yeah, yeah.
That doesn't mean it won't appear on Marco or my list. It just hasn't yet.
there's
There's-
only one spot left for me, so
right, and I haven't even given mine. So this was tough. It was tough to bring things down to top 5, and even tougher to get into my top 3. And my number 3 book is Deadly Class. Deadly Class is Wes Craig. It's Rick Remender. Rick Remender at this point in time was one of the hottest writers in comics. You know, Uncanny X-Men or X-Force, excuse me. Captain America, you know, even Venom, his Agent Venom. He had done a lot of really great stuff and had already emerged as one of my favorite writers. And then he took a chance on himself and he did Deadly Class with Wes Craig, whose art I had never seen before, who was a breath of fresh air, an art style that I never thought I would have liked. Challenged me visually from the first panel of the first page. And I adore Wes Craig. I adore Wes Craig. I adore his art style. As a human, he's great. I always pump Kaya because I think it's brilliant. And I haven't even talked about the story yet. Deadly Class is a book that I think inspired. Now, I don't want to go as far as to say a generation of comic book readers, but I definitely think it's a cult classic in a way that we don't have a lot of in comics. It got a show that inspired so much cosplay. So many people love that show. It was a cult hit. It didn't do so great, but again, a cult hit. A story that sees young, disenfranchised people, people who are living in a world that doesn't give a shit about them, which is the way a lot of youth felt in the 80s and 90s. They felt abandoned by the world. And these kids end up in a school for assassins. And the story is about these young kids who are broken, sort of finding each other, finding family in this school of nightmares. It's brilliant, it's heartbreaking, it's tragic, it's fun, it's sad. It will remind you of your youth, but it will also teach you that you've learned a lot of lessons since then. You know, the mistakes of youth. I think it's a classic, and I think more people should go back and read that book. I think it's underlooked. As big as it was, I think it's underlooked. So if you've never read Deadly Class, that's my recommendation. Of the books on this list, on my personal list, it's the one that I wish won the poll.
sure.
Number 2 is the book that makes me the saddest on this list because of how tragically its publishing history has gone. And that's Lazarus.
Oof.
Lazarus, go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say like Saga had problems. Lazarus had issues.
Because it wasn't popular, sadly. Not popular enough for them to be able to do the book the way they wanted. It's Greg Rucka and Michael Lark. Michael Lark is a fucking beast. Michael Lark did Daredevil. Michael Lark did, what's the other book?
GCPD is the one I think of.
Yeah. There's another book I'm blanking on, but this was Greg and Lark reforming. Um, this was them coming together again and doing something really special. It's how can I describe this? God, Lazarus is like Terminator. If the world was run by businesses, corporations, by Amazon, Google, if it was run by those businesses and those businesses were family businesses and each one of them had a territory in the world and a Terminator for the family. That's what Lazarus is. And it follows the life of one Lazarus in particular who is a girl who loves life and loves the world and loves her family, but she's being manipulated to be a weapon of war for a family that's trying to take the world over. It's a tragic, tragic story of a populace that has been defeated by businesses. And it's showing us the last vestiges of human life of free human life. It's tremendous. It's hard to follow now because issues come out infrequently and it's just gone in so many ways. I don't even follow it anymore because I don't know how. But I promise you, if you gave it a chance, it's a thought-provoking series that speaks to every single one of my sensibilities as a fan of storytelling. The kinds of things that I like to think about and rattle around in my brain are featured here. It's Greg Rucka at his finest. I truly believe that. And Michael Lark at his finest, by the way. So Lazarus is my number two.
It's good stuff.
For each of us, that leaves only one book, and we will announce them on the last episode of the year next week.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I don't think it's. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
What were you going to say?
I don't think it's Saga for you.
Oh, I don't think it's Saga for you.
Ah, interesting.
I don't think it's Saga for me.
Well, that's the only one we can say for a fact.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
it's not Saga for Tyler.
Definitely not.
So, let's see. What are you guys saying? What are you guys saying? Cosm, I'm gonna just go with Cosm, says Remender is doing best with his own stuff. Yeah, I agree. Although Uncanny X-Force is one of my favorite comic stories of all time. I would love to see him return to Marvel, but it will not happen. I don't believe that we will see that occur. He seems like he's one of those guys that's going to stick to his guns.
Electric says, got the low compendium for late summer and binged it. Just got 7 to Eternity compendium in case it won the vote for the book club. Remender seems to be on top of getting them out. Pumping out books. Real good stuff. 7 to Eternity. I would have very much liked to have come back to that one. That was so much fun.
That's the book that I paid face value for at New York Comic Con to get it from Rick Remender. I haven't paid face value for a fucking omnibus in I don't know, a decade.
This is when you busted your balls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun times. Fun stuff. MTG says, I just finished my first full year reading comics. And now I ask, how did you boys feel after you first fully invested in comics? Let me know after this topic. That's a great question. Marco, what's your take?
I felt like, oh my God, I have so much to read. It wasn't an overwhelming feeling, but it was excitement of just, wow, this was such a good idea to start reading these characters and getting into these books. I wonder how I can find my way into here. Like, it was all fresh and full of possibility, and I just wanted to absorb more. Yeah, just more. Give me more, as much as you possibly can.
For me, it was like, man, because I was in high school, I'm like, man, I'm never going to get laid now.
I was obsessed. I became obsessed with comics. I didn't have a lot as a kid going on, and so when I found comics as a teen, like Wednesdays or whenever, like when I first started reading, I was getting them sent to me. So whenever they would come in, and then Wednesdays when I became a Wednesday warrior was like my lifeline. Like that shit was everything. Um, yeah, I became obsessed with comics. I would read the same comics over and over. Like there are some Grant Morrison issues of Batman that I have read probably more times than I've read anything. Like just every time a new issue would come out, I would read the ones that came before it. I was locked the fuck in. So you know what, MTG, I hope you're having an amazing time with your comics journey. I love to hear from you guys that are new to this because I remember how I felt and I loved it, man. I loved it. I'm thankful for a lot of things, but I think one of the things in life I'm most thankful for is that I found comics and that I was lucky enough to be um, fortunate enough to be able to afford to buy them. You know, for my family, for my aunt in particular, to be able to make that happen for me. Like I'll always be thankful for that. Let's get into some news. We got some news to do. What are we talking about today? There was a little trailer that dropped.
For that really famous comic book, right?
Little known character.
Dogman.
I'm gonna go see that movie.
Yeah, same. I do actually.
Oh yeah, I want to see it. We got a Superman trailer we got a trailer for James Gunn's Superman. It is doing gangbusters. Gangbusters. This trailer is doing so well. We put out our reaction and breakdown to the trailer on Thursday, so if you guys want to check that out, it's a separate video. We talked about it on Pal Spools, but it's a separate video you guys can watch if you want the bite-sized version. It's great. The trailer's great, and apparently people are really loving it. James Gunn, the Chatterbox, went on Instagram and talked about the trailer and how successful it has been. Quote, crypto really did take us home. With over 250 million views and a million social posts, Superman is officially the most viewed and most talked about trailer in the history of both DC and Warner Brothers. This is because of all of you. Thank you. We're incredibly grateful and, most of all, excited to share this movie with you in July. Happy holidays.
Gotta shout out to crypto. Get your Bitcoin. Get your Dogecoin.
Oh my God.
Oh, sorry. Did you mean something else?
Gross.
I don't like it. You're the type of dude, you probably got baited by the Hawk Tua girl, didn't you? You bought that Hawk coin, didn't you?
That hawk. Nah, I bought Doge early and sold late.
Did you really buy Doge?
Yeah, years ago.
God damn it, Marco.
Hey, it made me some money.
Now it's a Department of Government, huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Great.
See, we're in there.
God.
What a wonderful
Get the
world we
news
live
now.
in. This is surprising to me, this trailer news, because I feel like the perspective, the public perspective on Superman, and I could be totally wrong about this. I feel like it was better before Man of Steel came out. Like I feel like there were more people who were high on Superman before Man of Steel came out, because I think Man of Steel and what was done after kind of hurt people's love of Superman. But you could also take that logic and say that because of that, people are now clamoring more for a great traditional Superman experience than they were before Man of Steel. I don't know.
I don't know if it made people less. I think people had an idea of what it was, and it was classic Superman, 70s, and there was such a hard departure that for people who had the familiarity and for people who were trying to come into it, who were new, it's like, okay, this is a new take. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a chance, and maybe felt burned because it wasn't the old. It wasn't the classic, and the new stuff maybe didn't resonate as strongly with the people that it was supposed to connect with, and now it's like, okay, those individuals feel this is a return to form, and the individuals who maybe in that time initially didn't like it are like, oh, this is supposed to be what Superman feels like, right, or what I've been told it's supposed to feel like, and so I'm more willing to give it the shot.
There's been less time between Man of Steel and now than there was Superman Returns to Man of Steel, right? That was a bigger gap.
Superman Returns to Man of Steel was no, because Superman Returns came out in like 2006, I want to say.
Man of Steel would have been 2012.
Yeah, 2012, 2013, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
So
2006,
when
and
was
then
Justice League?
Justice League in
Oh, I guess
theaters was
yeah, it's about similar,
2017.
similar. Unless you
yeah,
count the end credits of Black Adam. But like I guess it's a similar gap between Superman.
It's
Between
been 10 years since we've seen Man of Steel.
sure, I'm thinking like the last appearance of Henry Cavill's Superman, really.
Sure.
But
Okay.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I just think that not to say that like Man of Steel was like the lowest of the low for me, or like the Snyderverse Superman take was the lowest of the low for me. That it wasn't the right character. I don't think he had a clear grasp on who that character was. But I don't know. I just think that people want something more hopeful, and I think that's why this trailer hits. Like people cheered in my theater for this trailer when it happened yesterday when I saw Sonic.
hey,
That like, a it annoys me. I'm such a priss when it comes to theater etiquette. Like, shut up. But at the same time, I was like, all right, fine, fine. It's a good trailer. Cool.
Um, I yeah, I think Superman Returns did do damage to Superman in a way, but I also think Man of Steel did. I hope that James Gunn can restore people's faith in the character on screen because Superman really is the first superhero to get a superhero movie, and the first one was beloved. So, I think that there is precedent for people the world over loving Superman. And I'm really emboldened by these numbers, actually. I wouldn't think that a Superman film would break the record for DC. That means it did better numbers than Batman, the Batman. That means it did better numbers than The Dark Knight, which makes sense because that was at a different time, less people with internet access, blah blah blah. It did better numbers than Justice League. Like, think about what that's saying. That's nuts. Superman did that. That's a
changing
big deal.
changing times. It was the fifth most in 24 hours. I think the fifth most seen trailer, and that it's wild to think that it came from that character, the one that feels like even in the article that we're referencing, gets mentioned the Blue Boy Scout. There's like a perception around the character, and it seems like maybe we're breaking it.
Yeah. It did everything right. People love dogs. I think
They do, they do.
there's a person on our Discord, I think Little Miss Marvel, and she made a point that, hey, women love cute stuff and don't underestimate that. And I think that's true. Bringing women into the fold by including some cuteness. They put a spotlight on Lois and Clark in this trailer. I think that was really smart. The trailer gives you a flavor of absolutely everything that Superman stands for in the first trailer. They got it all in.
The theme for me was big of just, oh shit, that connected me to a level of nostalgia, because my parents have seen the movie, I've seen them watch the movie, all that kind of thing. And so um for even that to have a connection, a through line.
Yeah. Get
uh
Shitty says the reuse of Williams' score has me dubious they have more reverence for that movie than the character. Dude, that is what I always worry about when it comes to Superman. I think that's a part of why I gravitated so much towards Man of Steel. I hated Superman Returns. It felt like they were so into the original Superman movies that they just wanted to remake it. And I was like, wow, this sucks ass. Superman didn't throw a punch in that movie. He fucking got beat by who was that fucking guy from, was it Kumail Nanjiani? No, the other guy, right? There's
I
what am
could not tell you the plot of Superman Returns other than
God,
Kevin Spacey
that's
was in it.
yeah.
the guys who went to White Castle. What was that movie?
Harold and
Oh, Harold and
Kumar.
Kumar.
Yeah, he doesn't he get beat by Kumar?
I could not tell you what the hell happens in that movie.
That shit was annoying. But but I just feel like there is too much of a reverence for the OG Superman films, and I understand that people love them, but that shit came out 50 years ago, bro. Like that's way too late or way too old to still be honoring and referencing nonstop. Like, bro, please stop that. And I didn't love that theme being represented in the trailer. I talked about it when we talked about last week, or whatever it was. I don't want to keep going to that well, but I understand at the same time that it does appeal to a certain demographic of people. And if that's going to get people through the door to that theater, then so be it. But keep it out of the movie, please. I think, to me. In any event, this trailer did tremendous. It's making people happy. Does this get people's butts in seats? Do these numbers signify that this movie is going to do similar commiserate numbers in theaters?
Yes. I think that this means that there's intrigue, there's a fervor. I've only heard positive news on it. And anything that is negative isn't necessarily about the trailer, but the things that imply familiarity. And so for me, I think that means that people are ready to experience a newer type of Superman, a kinder one, and one that is maybe more hopeful, done with the doom and gloom of the mid 2010s. Like, let's look towards a better future. Superman, look up.
Yeah, I am very hopeful for this. James Gunn isn't necessarily my flavor all the time. But I do think that it looks like he got it. It looks like he understands.
Yeah, exactly. And that's always a good sign.
Yeah, for sure.
Uncanny Suit says I will be cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon sitting in my seat. Damn, yo. I'm gonna pay for the whole seat, but I'm only gonna be on the edge.
Oh my God. Well, I hope you enjoy that. Uh, Get Shitty says, I mean, every Superman score is a banger. Reusing one feels like a lack of confidence or aversion for me, but I acknowledge I'm weird about music. I agree with you, dude. Hans Zimmer dropped a fucking banger with the Man of Steel soundtrack.
What was it again? Blom.
Oh my God, dude.
Get out of here.
Inject all of that inside
I hate
of
that
me.
shit.
What happened?
Whatever.
I hate the Blom. Like, it makes sense in Dune, but I don't know. Doesn't track
come on.
for this.
It's Hans Zimmer. What are we gonna shit on him?
Sure, why not?
Wrong.
Why not?
That's the
He's one
sound
of
of
the
me
greatest-
shitting on him.
He's one of the greatest movie soundtrack makers of all time. Hey, Matt Fisher dropping $19.99 on us. Hello, folks. I'm just happy to have found this channel and community. Merry Xmas to all. And Tyler, stop spilling stuff.
No spilling happening. No, yeah, I actually have my coffee this time. It's almost done. I didn't spill it.
There you go.
Yo, go back to doing the Lion King. Hans Zimmer.
Wow, Marco. All right. So yeah, Superman's trailer did really well, and not stopping the train, Warner Brothers made an announcement about another DC Films movie that we can expect in 2026, that being Clayface.
Uh-huh.
Clayface is getting a movie. It's going to be written by Mike Flanagan, who did the Doctor Sleep movie. He wrote that. It's going to be coming out on September 11th, 2026, which is pretty appropriate.
Oh, damn. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Man, Sean, I don't understand. First of all, at least we won't forget that date. But, like, this could be good. I know you don't like a villain movie. Not a fan. But the creatives on this is the right creatives for the character. I think if I look back on, like, the Clayface episode of Batman the Animated Series, that's a full-on story you have there, and it doesn't necessarily need Batman to work. It's a Universal monster movie, is what it is.
So it should be made by whoever owns the rights to that.
and he's
Well,
a
no,
horror
it's
guy.
not a Universal monster. Like Universal's not making it, but it
But
is
I'm saying,
a classic monster movie. It is about hubris and the fall from it.
go ahead, Marco.
The Madam Web, Craven, Sure Venom
Stop
got
going, Marco.
three more
Keep
bias.
going.
We got 3 Venom movies, which that's probably that one's different. The only exception I can think of right now is Penguin, which well produced, well put together. But I feel like we're not learning the lesson of ancillary movies without their respective heroes in them, and that potentially not having or drawing a big enough crowd. Like I'm sure there's a story here with Clayface, but if the expectation as a movie is to do well and perform well, I don't know that it's going to have a big enough draw to reach those goals as much as you could put a good movie together.
I'm going to be as honest as I can right now when I say that this is fucking stupid. Could it be good? Sure. Sure, it could be good. Anything could be good. Should it exist? Does it make any sense? Fuck no. Clayface is not Joker. Clayface is not Venom. Clayface does not have public penetration. You want to talk to me about a Doctor Doom movie? I still think it's bad. But okay, it makes sense. It's Doctor Doom. This is Clayface we're talking about. And you're going to do a Clayface movie in your universe before you do a Batman movie. All right, DC.
Sure.
Set it up.
I really
That's
like
that's
Mike
that's dumb
Flanagan's
as fuck.
stuff though. But here, the thing is, like, it is a movie which is a form of art, and I think the creatives on this know this character. Mike Flanagan fucking hits. His TV shows on Netflix are really good. I love Midnight Mass. I think that's a great show. And the dude does spooky really fucking well. And the idea of like this disgraced Hollywood actor who tries to regain his the limelight, but then winds up becoming a monster because of it. It's just like there's a story there. It doesn't need Batman.
Yes, it does. He was created with Batman. It does need Batman.
The ingredients don't.
The ingredients don't, Tyler, but like whether like anybody wants to admit it or not, this exists within a universe. Clayface was created to exist alongside Batman, not by himself. And whether like the movie could be good, but that doesn't mean that it's doing DC any favors. Why are you launching with this before a Batman movie?
I think they're launching on it with the fact it's Mike Flanagan alone. That guy has ravenous fans, and they're like, "Hey, do a horror movie. What do you want?"
And I think you can put out a Clayface movie, or rather, you can put out a movie with that premise, but then just go do that movie as Mike Flanagan. Like what you just said, Tyler, intrigued me until the moment where it's like, oh yeah, and it's a Batman villain. It's like, well, hold on a second. Go show me some artsy film about that. I'd be more intrigued about that and seeing what what Michael can do with that kind of story and that kind of maybe more creative freedom than trying to fit it into the context of a Batman adjacent, DC adjacent.
Yeah, it's crazy. This is crazy. James says they need to be able to do more than 3 Batman movies before any of his rogues gallery get a movie. Yeah, what the fuck? Clayface, like, you can make the same exact movie that Tyler pitched with Batman in it. There's absolutely no reason why Batman cannot be in that same exact with Mike Flanagan writing it. There's no reason why not. So why do you have to make a Clayface solo film? Who thinks this is a good idea? Joker worked and Venom worked. Wow. You mean to tell me that the biggest villain in the history of films and characters had a movie that made $1 billion? Holy shit. Really? What a shock. And then what happened with the second one? It sucked dick at the box office. What are we talking about? Is this a real conversation? I can't believe this.
Shout out to Matt Fisher with the $9.99. Thank you so much. I know, guy. Literally looks like me, an idiot. God help us, but Fillion is gonna be so good. Clayface, I really hope, or it's Matt Hagen, but I know it's gonna be Carlo. I hope it's a period film.
Thank you, Matt Fisher. This is insufferable.
A
This is
a period film? I could fuck with that.
That doesn't
But make
necessarily
it a
need to be a period. I mean, the story of somebody wanting to regain their fame in Hollywood is persistent from its inception of Hollywood.
damn. But I like that now as just like its own thing.
Oh, so you like this idea as its own thing?
I like it as its own thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's like an Invisible Man,
Or whatchamacallit from
Dr. Jekyll, Mr.
Uh,
Hyde. It's got all
no,
those
no.
elements.
From Doom Patrol. I'm forgetting her name. Oh my god.
Oh, the
She melts.
Rita Farr.
Yes, Rita.
Yeah.
Yeah. That shit's cool.
I put up a poll. Are you excited for the Clayface film? 61% of you said no.
Damn, no love for my boy Carlo.
To be fair, we don't even know if it's Carlo either. It could be any of the 3, I think, Clayfaces there have been. Even a woman.
Matt Fisher. Or sorry. Jabez Creed says, I love DC, but no. Thank you for the $5.
I think that's
Agreed.
the most succinct super chat we've ever gotten.
Agreed. Hey, you're right. I love DC too, but yeah, skip this. Yo, Uncanny Suit, just give me my Swamp Thing movie. God damn, thank you.
That's
for
happening
talking
too, though.
sense.
That's already happening.
Is it? What's his name?
The guy who just directed that horrible Indiana Jones movie.
Cole says Mike Flanagan deserves some respect. The body horror Clayface story could be cool. DCU seems like it's driven by creators' vision versus a linear story like MCU. That has nothing to do with whether or not you should be making villain movies without heroes in them. I am so over this trope. I don't get who, like, other than Joker and Venom, where is this working? Sony hasn't made it work not once outside of Venom, and they got very lucky.
Well, Craven just came out. Let it cook for a bit.
Oh,
It didn't have the Christmas audiences,
Oh yeah. Atomic Hal with the $9.99. Clayface is about as good an idea as the fart-themed Harley Quinn special in this month's solicits. Apologies to the creators involved. Thank you.
Excuse me, you said fart themed?
There's a crazy, stupid Harley Quinn special coming out called a Fartacular. For all the right that DC does, that's a fucking dumb ass idea.
That's a weird way to pronounce a W.
Oh yeah. Matt Fisher with the $4.99 says, I also eagerly await Crisis on Infinite Earths where Cavill meets the new guy. There's been 7 CF. I don't know what CF stands for. Clayface. Okay, thank you. Jedi Ty says there's no universe that I see this movie.
Across all the multiverse, across all the different Earths.
Oh my goodness. Connor says it's not a Batman Rogue movie. It's going to be a low-budget body horror movie that just happens to have the DC logo attached. Flanagan pitched it and Gunn liked the pitch. I think it could be cool. Yeah, but it's not enough. Like, James Gunn can't just do whatever the fuck he wants. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not enough for you to like the pitch. What is the point? Pitch and point. What is the point? Making good movies is great. We all want all these movies to be great. But there has to be a point. If you're going to make a Clayface movie and it's not going to include Batman, what are the financial realities of that movie? You have to care about that. That has to matter. All we've talked about is how Superman better do well. Well, what are the expectations of a Clayface film? It's horror, so the expectations are lower. I totally get that. But if you want to make these very artsy, horror films about a villain, you can do that with Batman or do it somewhere else.
Yep. Yo, I think it's do it somewhere else and take into consideration the goals of the studio. They need to make money. Is this going to make money? I don't know. Doubtful.
And is it? Go ahead, Tyler.
It needs to make money in relative to how much it costs to make.
Yo,
And
Clayface is gonna be CGI unless they're throwing mud on him.
well, I mean, you don't have to do it's maybe, but like CGI is not like if you're just doing it for Clayface and a character that can morph into just people, like you don't need to do it often.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
and for
I don't think
like a low
that's.
budget horror movie, it
Transition
probably won't be the
dollars.
most expensive movie to make.
Yeah.
James says the movies and TV shows need to be tied together. The movies tell the big stories with the big name characters, and the TV shows explore the smaller characters. They did an excellent job with Penguin. It fits into the margins of Batman 1 and 2. You don't hear me getting on here bitching about that. That was excellent. Not only was it excellent, but it exists within the world that the Batman created. You want to play in that playground? Say word. I'm down. But they haven't even established the playground yet. Clayface in this universe comes before Batman. Make it make sense. Matt Fisher with another $4.99. Are we getting Tom King BB since we got Guy? Could we get the JLI?
Oh,
JLI,
Ted
yes.
Cord, Blue Beetle.
Okay. Ted Cord, Blue Beetle. JLI, yeah. We know that. I don't know about Blue Beetle. I believe we know that Jaime Reyes, though, and the guy who played him is carrying over.
Yeah, yeah. Yo,
So
a young Ted Cord would be cool as shit. God, I love that stuff.
Kazum with the 11 euros says you can spend them off if Clayface is successful in a movie series or popular side character like Penguin. Low budget horror, perhaps, but as a normie draw, not happening without recognizability.
Hmm.
It's funny because I wonder if the more artsy, like horror film fans will be turned off by this because it's a DC project. Although maybe Mike Flanagan being involved will draw them into the
That's a big
fold.
draw. Yeah, it also depends on marketing too, because you can market this to people without really showing that it's a DC movie if you wanted to.
Sure. Yeah. It has that sensibility.
Uncanny Suit says, I'll tell you one thing. Brendan Fraser would be awesome casting. I agree with that. I like that.
Okay.
All right. Enough of my ranting about DC's film antics. Uh, we have to talk about a little bit of DC news. There was a Hollywood Reporter article that came out in which Jim Lee and Anna DePies talked about the stellar year that DC has had. And they talked about, we don't need to belabor this, but there were some interesting tidbits I thought here. Mostly it's a fluff piece. I thought it was really awesome that the Hollywood Reporter um, did this, that we're seeing comics be talked about in the Hollywood Reporter business section, and they're talking very positively. The article discusses the sales being probably up this year for comics, so I'll read directly from it. This was written by Boris Kidd, who always does stuff like this for them. He said, the death of comic books has been foretold for many years, but just like the superheroes and villains it chronicles, the medium always returns, sometimes bolder than before. Sales from comic books and graphic novels tumbled 7% in 2023, falling from the 2.1 billion in 2022 to 1.87 billion. According to an estimate from ICV2, a website that tracks industry sales. This year, however, the industry bounced back in a big way. Though final numbers aren't yet available, sales are believed to be up. No one had a bigger year, arguably, than DC, which launched several publishing initiatives, new product lines, and new distribution channels. Right away, I love it
Hmm.
because I do think numbers year over year will be up for 24. It's hard to see how they wouldn't be, considering how many bona fide hits we had. And I also agree that DC, they pretty well owned the year. And some of the bounce back is on the back of DC.
Yeah. Purely off of strategic decisions, good calls made, good initiatives, good momentum, good creators, like across the board. It's firing on all cylinders. Like I'm sure there's going to be a bump back with in comics, and we're going to get back to a point where the 2020 numbers are in view, Obviously, we've seen a downtrend since then, but this is going to be a turnaround in the right direction. And if they keep this going for the next couple of years with more compact comics, more success on the Absolute line, which is only just starting, next year is going to be in full fledged. We'll see how big 2025 is going to be.
Yeah, and in this article, like I said, it's mostly them speaking about how well DC is doing, and they talk about compact comics, which is fantastic. It's been a success. Um, they say, quote, the graphic novels were not only a hit at the comic book shop, but at bookstores where superheroes don't traditionally sell well. The line will put out 15 books in 2025. That's in reference to compact comics. They talk about the success of DC Go. They talk about DC Infinite, which is expanded this year to France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, Brazil, and Mexico this week. So that's big time success. They also tout that Absolute Batman #1 is the best-selling comic of the year. We know that's not true, but it did sell more than 400,000 copies, so that's fantastic. They say that Absolute Superman and Wonder Woman #1 went on to sell over 500,000 copies combined, so nearly a billion copies sold in just those three titles. What are we talking about?
Holy shit.
When was the last time you heard something like that in comics?
Have we?
It honestly just shows that marketing comics actually works.
And
Big
thinking for the
surprise.
long term works. Thinking for not the event, not the upcoming summer event. Thinking not about the next gimmick. Thinking about, okay, how do we communicate meaningful story to readers who crave it?
Yeah. How do you like I think telling good stories is one of the best ways to win in comics. All three of these books are hot. And they had the benefit of obviously being number ones. It's new Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman #1s. It's all big, but they were good. I think if they were ass, yeah, they would still would have sold pretty well, but maybe not as well. Absolute Batman getting this many reprintings, I think in some part is due to the fact that it's really good.
I,
So go
I
ahead.
can only imagine all of these are going to get a number of reprintings, the same way that Ultimate Spider-Man has. Like, uh, you give, yeah, you give a lot of opportunity to these creators, and you're going to get that in returns from readers.
Yeah, absolutely.
All love.
Yeah, it's like a DC love fest these days. Jim Lee said, sometimes you're benefiting from bigger trends and it lifts your business, and other times you're making decisions which help drive the business. And I think this year we made some really great creative and business decisions. It really elevated our revenue, drove sales, brought a lot of fans back in the stores with All In and the Absolute line. I like that. Own your success. Jim Lee is saying, hey, because of our efforts, we're reaping the rewards. We're not riding on the coattails of a movie success or of Marvel's success, right? We're riding on our own coattails. Some
Yeah.
people are riding on our coattails.
Hey, yo, yeah. So that's a great point. You know, ha- have your laurels. Take your laurels.
Yeah.
Gavin
For
in
her,
the chat.
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
go for it.
Gavin in the chat said, when I first came to this channel, I told you all I was excited about what DC was doing with the Dawn of DC stuff and the direction they were heading. Yeah, I remember that. I remember those first mentions of it, those things percolating kind of in the background, and it's all it is all, I think, paying off.
Hell yeah. Yep. Um, and yeah, million, not billion. I lost my mind right there. Atomic Hound corrected me. Thank you. Not billion, million. I was going crazy.
If only.
If only, yeah. I'm dreaming. I'm
Imagine
dreaming.
all three of those books.
A billion copies. Holy shit.
What? The industry's only like 900 million.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. Thank you, Atomic Hal, for the correction. DePies, though, she followed up on what Jim Lee had to say and made a great point. Quote, I don't think it's just a 2024 thing either. A lot of what you saw this year has been in the works for a couple years. And what we're building with all the new lines, like launching Compact Comics, DC Finest, is going to go on for years. those are going to be our new evergreens. And we've talked about that on the channel. We've talked about the fact that this isn't DC's reaction to anything. This is DC's hard work coming off the heels of restructuring in 2020. They did a whole restructuring. They got rid of Dan Didio. They got rid of a lot of the old guard who arguably were holding DC back. And all of this is the aftermath. And I'm pretty pleased with what they've been doing. So
Fruits.
yeah, exactly. The fruits of the labor. Jim Lee was asked an interesting question. What would you say that the quality of comics has improved this year? That's what he was asked. And he said, that's a loaded question, right? If I say yes, then I'm saying everything that was published before 2024 was not good. I'm not going to fall into your trap. I think we publish great comics every year. I'm not going to read the rest of the answer. I sort of think that's a little bit, I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like, no, you are publishing better comics this year. I firmly believe that. Absolute Power is a better comic than Night Terrors. It was a better idea, better executed.
Oh, I got a shiver, dude.
For real. Like they're putting out books that I feel like people want to read. That's why the sales are up.
Yep.
So that matters a lot.
Want to read and are excited to play out in their heads. Like we're pumped about the direction of Superman. We're pumped about the direction of the Absolute lines, for example, of Batman. And we every time there's a new Absolute book, we spend like the first 30 minutes of Pals Pulls just talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very, very exciting time. One of the things that was asked that I thought was also interesting was the writer Boris asked Jim Lee to said, quote, "Can one of you set me straight about all the different lines?" We've talked about brand confusion because there are all these lines, Elseworlds, Absolute now, Mainline, Vertigo, all these different things. So this is what Lee had to say. We had a lot of conversations with the writers because start the whole process of what does it mean to be an Absolute book versus Black Label or an Elseworld. To me, in Elseworlds, you have to really break the original conceit, and then you have to get something really cool and different and creative out of that. But in the Absolute line, we want them to stay true to the essence of the character and change the details, contemporize the settings, change some of the secondary, tertiary relationships, and see what that nets out. There is a difference. And Black Label is more true to the conceit, true to the canon, but out of continuity. We have to have North Stars for each of these imprints and sub-imprints so we know why we're doing each of them and what purpose they serve.
Makes sense.
Did that do enough to distinguish the different lines for you?
I think for somebody who is trying to communicate it to retailers, to people in back office, I think that's what that is. For the reader, is Black Label where I see Batman dong or not? That becomes the thing. Is it Elseworlds? Is that where I read this kind of story? I don't think it answers it for the creator as much as it does for the people involved in the day-to-day business.
It didn't do much for me. I don't know. I go ahead, Tyler.
I was going to say, I don't think we really knew what Black Label was since its inception. So
I thought, well, I don't know, man, because at that time, right? At that time, I feel like you didn't have as many out of continuity, mature books.
You had DCeased, which was doing so well they wanted to recreate that fervor elsewhere, which is what Black Label eventually was. And was Vertigo gone when Black Label was created?
I want to say yes.
Or was there overlap in the beginning?
My gut tells me that the answer is no, because I remember there was a Brian Hill Vertigo book.
Oh, American
Carnage. American
Great
Carnage.
Book. Great book.
Love that series. And I believe that was a Vertigo title. So
yeah, okay. But I think that announcement was very soon after Vertigo being shut. Because everyone was like, what the fuck are they? This is just Vertigo, based on the way they're describing it.
It feels like what Vertigo was. Like
Yeah.
Vertigo was a place where you could take a DC character and do something with them that was more mature and adult and maybe out of continuity or maybe not. Black Label felt like that. But we have Vertigo. It's a lot. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't feel solid with that answer.
that there was about a year crossover. The relaunch of Vertigo more or less happened like 20 in the early 2013s after Berger left. And then this DC Vertigo ended around 2019. Black
Mhm.
Label started around 2018.
Okay. Thank you for that. That lines up with my memory.
Yeah. It transitioned things like Sandman, Fables, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The last couple of interesting bits from this article, and I encourage you to read it if you're curious for more of what Jim and Anna had to say. Uh, Boris asked, Jim, you're returning next year to the drawing page of a monthly comic for the first time since 2016 with Batman Hush 2. Can we talk about that? Lee said, fine. But can I say we have bigger news than Hush even for next year? Can I say that? To which the Pies replied, yes. And I would say I agree. But I also would say Jim's being humble. We're all very, very over the top with Batman 158 and beyond. So Jim right there is saying that there's something bigger than him returning to do Hush 2. Him and Jeff Loeb returning to do Hush 2. He could be being humble and maybe just trying to hype stuff up, but I actually feel like he's not lying. I think he knows how big of a deal it is for him to be drawing this book, and I think he's saying that there's something even larger than that looming. I don't know how we could possibly speculate about what that could be, but that does get me excited.
Yeah, like Jeff Loeb, Jim Lee on a Batman book, unless it's like line wide. Not that team necessarily, but something line wide has to happen for it to be valid enough for you to say something more exciting than that's happening. Like, if you're gonna announce a new Batman writer, whatever, fine. I kind of expected that because that's the nature of what that is and who these two creators are. So I don't actually think it's him being humble. I think they have plans. If the past year has been an example of anything, I don't think they slow down on this momentum. I think they keep pushing on it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that there is a lot of possibility. Cole says, "I bet it's Grant Morrison and Frank Whiteley coming back to Superman. That is massive.
That'd be
If true,
crazy.
that would be nuts. I don't see that necessarily. Although I'm not gonna lie, Grant Morrison's return to DC was one of the first thoughts that I had when I read this quote from Jim Lee.
I can see Grant coming back for something. I know Grant. They especially like working in cross media. They do a lot of TV stuff. They do a lot of movie stuff. So maybe the idea of this new DCU being integrated with the marketing of comics and being influenced by comics so directly, it could be intriguing to him or to them rather.
Sure. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Although Superman, as Aaron Ruiz points out, Dan Slott is allegedly impending. We know John Ridley. So
Right.
Superman is a character that a lot of people are like circling around right now and are claiming. And then PKJ's doing some. I haven't even seen this announcement. That's why it's not a part of the show today. But PKJ's returning to Superman too. So what the fuck?
Wasn't even an announcement. It was just in the solicits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
wow.
a 5-issue mini, I believe. Looks to be telling more of
Sick.
his old gods stuff.
Hell yeah.
More old run. Can't wait. Love that. And then finally, Lee was asked, "Where are you in the drawing process?" And Lee said, "I'm on the second issue of 6. I don't know if that's been noted, but it's a two-part story. There is an initial 6 issues that are in the actual Batman continuity, starting with Batman number 158, which comes out last week of March, and that runs 6 issues. It resolves that arc, but it ends with a bit of a cliffhanger. And then Jeff and I are coming back for a final 6 to resolve the Hush saga, which will probably be in 2026." Whoa. Hold the phone. So you're telling me that Jim Lee, who according to Bleeding Cool started work on this in March, that's the word that we got, and was so confident that they'd be ready to launch, that they said they were going to do Batman weekly to get through what they had because they were so ready for Jim Lee to and Jeff Loeb's run to start. You're telling me that this man is only 2 issues in?
He's got a lot of those absolute covers to get through.
Wait, I sorry, I might have misheard. I thought he was on the second issue of the second set of 6.
He said, I'm on the second issue of 6.
Oh, oh no, oh no, yo.
He's got a busy winter break.
Either that or we're going to experience some real delays because this shit
man.
launches in March.
This is going to be All-Star Batman and Robin, isn't it?
I hope not.
You
but it
can't do
could
that
be.
with the main Batman book. A mini?
Exactly.
Sure. You cannot do that with Batman.
Yo, Gavin on filler issues.
That's not great. That's not a great sign. And now some people have taken his usage of the word continuity to mean that the first 6 will technically happen inside Batman's continuity, but the next 6 won't. And that's not how I read this at all. Am I alone in that? That's not how I read this at all. I read this as the first 6 will take place in Batman proper, 158 to whatever, and then the next 6 will take place wherever, but they will still be in continuity.
That's how I was reading it too, because you can't finish the 6 issues, relaunch a new team with Batman, and then bring back this team, because then you have a paper champion at that point.
Right. This is odd. This is odd and awkward.
Yeah,
okay. I read it as they were going to be out of continuity in relation to that, like where Batman is in the universe. I don't know how they would do that stuff.
But how can you start a story that starts in continuity for the first 6 and then just isn't for the next 6?
I mean, isn't that what Grant did?
Yeah, Grant did with the Son of the Batman. You know, like that future isn't necessarily our future.
Come on.
Well, I mean, you could if the second 6 issues are our future Batman story, that ties in heavily to this.
That was my that was my first thought. I'm like, oh yeah, Grant's done that.
I think
Miller's done it.
I think that's extremely different. I think it's extremely generous to compare the 666 issue to this. In the context of that art, of that run, I think that's generous, but we'll see. We'll see. Overall, I think this is a really cool interview. I'm glad they did it. It's good to see Jim Lee and Anna DePais speaking in public. We need more, people to speak about comics, and some interesting tidbits there.
You think Jim Lee gets this puff piece for the fact that he can go to Zaslav saying, "Hey, look, comics are big. They're on Hollywood Reporter. Don't cut us like you did Sesame Street."
Sesame Street gone?
Yeah, they're looking for public funding again.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yo, one last shout out. That Jim Lee cover is cool with all the names, Lowe, Starking, Jim Lee on one side. All of that to see was really cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Matt Fisher with the 499. Do we know why the last days of Lex Luthor was delayed, or Batman Offworld? I don't have specific answers for you, but last days is Hitch, correct?
I think so. Yeah, that's the Mark Waid Hitch.
Yeah,
book?
Mark Waid and Brian Hitch. And obviously Mark Waid is super busy with, World's Finest and Justice League Unlimited, but Brian Hitch notably doing Redcoat for Ghost Machine. So
Right.
he's not prioritizing anything over that. I would imagine he's working on last days in the margins of what he's doing with Redcoat.
And Last Days it also just got the second issue solicited, I believe, in the most recent solicits.
It got pushed back. Apparently, that's the second issue you said.
Yeah, whatever the solicit just came out, that book showed up in there.
Yeah, well, I have on our comic books, The Last Days of Lex Luthor #2 delayed again a year ago. So
Yeah, I think now we're finally getting it. Is where
I see. Okay.
And as far as Batman Off-World, I don't know what's going on with that book either, but it's been in delay hell.
Jason Aaron, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's also busy doing more quote unquote
Him and
important stuff at DC.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh
they were
yeah,
just like, hey, we got to put that on the back burner. We'll get to it when we get to it. We need you on Superman thing for now. We need you on Absolute Superman. Yeah.
TMNT.
I don't think DC gives a shit about that.
No, for sure, but I'm sure he's to some degree, managing.
Jedi Ty says it can still be in continuity and be a mini. Yeah, that's what I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be like the Tom King, which is what Cole says. Yeah, it's going to be like the Tom King Batman Catwoman story thing. Atomic Hound says, how do we know there's not an all-in event and time jump in between, like 1 year later, and Hush Part 2 fills in the gap? We don't. We don't. Anything is possible. All right. Let's jump forward and we can hit these next couple pretty quickly. We now know what Nicole Maines and Stefan Segovia's next book is. We are getting a 6-issue Secret Six series. Say that 5 times fast.
Don't. You will summon the beast if you do.
This is we've been curious as to what they were going to hand Nicole Maines next. There were rumors of a Secret Six series, and I don't even know why, but they turned out to be fact because it is in fact happening. We are going to see a story in which they are trying to find Amanda Waller, who has escaped from prison
Already.
already.
Damn, so quick.
Dreamer, John Kent, Jay Nakamura, they're going to try to find her. Catman, Deadshot, and Black Alice are going to help them in accomplishing this goal. Nicole Maines is going to stick with Dreamer, John, and Jay Nakamura to deal with that threesome love triangle drama.
Oh,
And Steven Segovia, great hand. What do you guys make of this?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love Secret Six. This doesn't really feel like what Secret Six is in terms of the actual story. I mean, Secret Six is a much smaller book that deals with just like interpersonal stuff, but there will be interpersonal stuff here for sure with our main trio, the challengers of the DCU, not the challengers of the unknown, but more like the Zendaya movie. And then Deadshot, Catman, and Black Alice are original Secret Six members. So seeing them have that dynamic again is going to be interesting. And I like this team, creative team for sure. And also, I'm just a big Catman fan. The guy's rad. More of him.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the characters. And if anything, hearing the announcement that the Dreamer, John Kent, and Jay are going to be in here, I'd much rather them. I'd much rather get a series where it's those three dealing with things that are a bit heavier, that are more emotionally driven. If this is going to be them as part of a team, but getting to see like just action packed stuff, I'm not sure that I'm that interested in that.
I'm excited to see what Nicole Maines has to do.
Mm.
That's the big draw for me. I don't care about the Secret Six. I never read the Gail Simone stuff, which I probably should, but I just haven't read it. I agree with Tyler that based on my limited knowledge of that, this does sound like a deviation. But, Marvel's been deviating from the Thunderbolts forever. Like, no one cares anymore about what these teams are supposed to mean, I guess.
They're just brands at this point.
As if the Secret Six brand is so big, right? But okay, fine. But your point stands. This is fine. I'm into it.
Yeah,
I'll be there. I'll be
check
seated.
it out. It'll be on.
Yeah.
It'll be on Passpals maybe.
Certainly.
There is a Brad Walker cover though, Sean, that has Mad Hatter in the background there. So
Whoa! I just closed the tab. Holy shit!
I don't know if they're going to be having to go through villains of the DC universe to get information on where Amanda Waller is and who she's working with. The original Secret Six cast is in the background, so that is intriguing.
That's a sick
But it
cover.
also
Actually, I'm glad you pointed that
could
out.
just be a cover. Do you like John's new costume? It feels very Zod.
It does. It does. I am happier with it than the current costume that he is wearing because I just feel like you got to get him away from just like Superman clone territory.
He's wearing his dad's clothes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a signifier or something, though. You bring up Zod. What if this is a signifier? Clothes make the man, so to speak.
Maybe this is his bad boy arc.
Hey,
Ooh.
And honestly, that's kind of what I've been asking for. Him to have a little bit of, maybe make some controversial decisions. Maybe stop being such a goody-goody.
listen, bro. he got two baddies. Dreamer's a baddie. Jay Nakamura's not my cup of tea, but some people, they may feel differently. Obviously, Superman feels differently because that's his man right now. So he got two baddies fighting over him. And one book that I will always show up for is a superhero comic with a love triangle.
Yeah, yeah, it's good.
We need our first DC poly situation going on here.
That'd be crazy. X-Men did it. Superboy can do it.
Although, actually, I'm looking at this cover and it looks like they're all doing the Riz face, like they're mogging right now. They're looks maxing. You know what I mean, Sean?
They're
I,
mewing.
I didn't know. I didn't understand one of those things that you said, actually.
Okay, cool.
The art looks cool. Some of the interiors here.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think it's safe to say we'll read this for Palace Pulls once it comes out. Number one, easy, yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Easy pull. Speaking of easy pulls, Dennis Camp has been the belle of the ball this year in comics, writing the ultimates to much praise, critically and commercially. And like any smart comic book writer, he is at the height of his fame launching a creator-owned series. We've all heard of 20th Century Men. I've got my copy behind me. I've been desperate to read this. I just haven't been able to get to it. But he is launching a new creator-owned series. This one is got a very interesting title that might evoke something for you. It is called Assorted Crisis Events.
Assortment?
Assorted. It is coming from Image Comics, written by Dennis Camp with art by Eric Zawadsky, who is not a name that I have ever heard before. This is going to be a sci-fi book. And it's coming out in March, so we don't have terribly long to wait. And here is the solicit. Time has no bounds in this world, and readers will follow in the footsteps of normal people who are just trying to get through a normal day, but instead have to deal with time loops and space portals, confused time travelers from different eras, and alternate dimension versions of themselves, all while just taking a stroll down the street. Meanwhile, the overarching story dives into what caused the rules of time to suddenly shift, and if it's possible to reverse the damage. Fans of Crisis on Infinite Earths, Black Mirror, and Doctor Who will enjoy this time-bending, clock-shattering new series with the first issue hitting shelves in March.
Interesting. It's seemingly meant to be an anthology, and so it's curious that they're taking this crisis event angle. That's cool. That means that Dennis has thought of this because that's a confusing concept to kind of wrap your head around, and so in order to have to distill something creatively within that. It's cool. It feels like, Astro City, but in Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah, I was getting Astro City vibes from this too, without the superheroes, but like just the super heroic events happening. I don't care. You could tell me this book was about nothing and it's Dennis Camp and I'd read it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in its ability. So, sure.
I love Dennis Camp. I really do. His books are stellar. Also happens to be a really great guy by all accounts. We got to chat with him at New York Comic Con and he was fantastic. I have been really hoping that we would get an announcement like this from his camp. I've been really hoping we would see an indie shot. I think that he could be, if this works, if this is good and if people support it, he could be establishing himself as one of the pillars of this new era of writers.
And also, like, him doing an indie book lets him really be honest in a book where at Big Two, you are writing for a big company at that point. So you maybe have to curb your ideas inside superheroics, and maybe a little more subtext rather than text. Even though Ultimate is pretty straightforward in what it is. But him without those bindings potentially is exciting.
Yeah, I will read anything that Dennis Camp wants to write. And so I am fully seated. He's also going to be joined by Jordi Belair, Hassan Otsman Al Howe, and it looks like they snapped up Tom Muller for designs as well. So, like, honestly, a tremendous creative team. The only person I don't know and don't love is Eric Zawadsky, but I'm gonna be introduced to him here. So
Gavin says that he has a great YouTube channel, Zawadsky, called Ink Scribes. About to
sick.
plug that into my Google machine.
There's actually a trailer. There's a teaser trailer for the book. It doesn't give us much, but I don't know. Looks interesting.
Yeah.
I'm down. And then last up news-wise, we've got another event from Marvel. If you weren't tired of events, Marvel has another one for you. It's another X event because Charles Xavier is going to be on the run. We've got the Raid on Grey Malkin event, which it's a crossover happening only in X-Men and Uncanny. X Manhunt, which is the name of this event, is actually going to take place in a lot more of the titles. So the full list of titles that we know it's going to run through, and these are all the parts, are Uncanny X-Men 11, NYX number 9, Storm number 6, X-Men number 13, X-Factor number 8, X-Force number 9, Exceptional X-Men number 7, and X-Manhunt Omega number 1.
This feels
tell us more.
This feels like an event done in the style of 90s X-Men comics that I do not like. This almost feels like the Parallax event. The way it's like literally it's like one here, one here, one here, one here. Good luck collecting that. And then Exceptional X-Men number 7, is that a tease of Mr. Sinister there as well?
Oh yeah.
I don't know about this because I'm liking a lot of these books. Just let them cook. I'm tired of them having to fit something. You know, like I'm not into this.
Tyler, it's the summer. You need an event.
No.
An X event at that.
You see what the X-Men look like in that cover that I have with Professor X giving him a mind blast? That's me trying to keep track of this.
Yeah.
This book's going to make me bald.
Oh my God. All right. So I'm looking at this list, right? And I'm going, okay, I currently buy Uncanny X-Men, X-Force, Exceptional. So I'll be reading parts 1, 6, and 7.
Honestly,
and 8.
That's probably the best way to read it because you're getting the beginning and then the end. You don't need all the middle parts.
Yeah. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to have random issues of, of X-Men in my catalog. I'm not doing it. I don't care. I understand that this is an old way of doing crossovers in the X line, and they've done this a lot, and I loved it in Messiah Complex, and for Messiah Complex I jumped around and I bought all those books, but I am a more seasoned reader than I was then, and as much as I adore that event, unless I hear tremendous things about these books, I am not breaking my edict of keeping to dropping books for this. I'm not going to break it.
I'll pick this up if I get red band versions. Maybe that'll be the gimmick. Sorry, maybe that'll be the tactic to get me to buy this.
I'm looking through this too and trying to see which ones I'm reading. I'm reading Uncanny, I'm reading NYX, I'm reading X-Men, and Exceptional.
So you're reading 4.
I'm reading 4 of them. I'll probably just read the whole thing. God damn it. I know myself. I'm going to want to. Especially if I'm getting the beginning too. And the final, like I'm going to... I can dislike it, but I can realize that I am a cuck in the situation and will do what it tells me to do, I know my place. I know the dichotomy here.
Fuck, man. How solidarity, Tyler. You're supposed to help me.
I am who I am.
An instigator.
I'm not saying you got to do what I'm going to do. I'm just saying what I'm going to do. And that's begrudgingly read something that has different creative teams on each issue too. Like, what is the creative focus here?
There isn't. Oh, you're right. Oh, I hate that shit. Who knows what they're gonna do? The character
I
technically is
guess
over
a bald
here,
guy
but
just looks like a bald guy, right?
And it's gonna be like, fitting a square peg in a round hole. Like, how can we fucking force Professor Xavier into Storm number 6? Like, I don't like that. These books are doing whatever they're doing, whether I like it or not. And now you're ham fisting Professor Xavier into the mix. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I
yo,
have no enthusiasm for this. I just don't.
the X-Man Hunt Omega cover, weak sauce, bro. It's
Yeah.
kind of just messy, and then everyone is just like,
That's actually a genuinely a rough. Man, I don't even know whose art it is. I don't
Yeah.
want to even
It's
say it.
Gleb.
Oh,
Oh,
right. Well, yeah, not the best that I've seen from
Professor
Gleb,
X is just
unfortunately.
making everyone come in their pants.
Hey, if he had that power, he wouldn't have to work in comics.
He can do it.
What you said? He can
Yeah,
do that?
Professor X can.
Oh.
yeah.
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 Surely.
That's actually true. Yeah. I thought you were saying Gleb Melnikov could do that. I was like, damn, bro. How'd you
I've
learn
seen
that?
some Gleb covers that got me close.
Uh, um,
Eric Simmons. Don't worry, it'll be in the dollar bin.
Yeah, but when? Not we do a weekly show, Eric. I'm sorry.
fuck. Yeah, we might have to review this.
Yeah, yeah.
Bring back the
actually.
X-Men block. We'll see. We'll see what it feels like then.
The X-Men Power Hour.
James says, as someone that collected in the 90s, I hate crossovers. It's a pain in the ass. I don't know why they don't just do something like this in one series instead of 5 or 6. Totally, bro. And the reason is because it's classic and it's fun or whatever. And I'm sure that creatively it's fun for these people to work together. Although I've also heard that that's not that fun a lot of times. But ultimately, this decision is being made for financial reasons. You know, if Uncanny and X-Men are doing big numbers and they're happy with those numbers, that's cool. But what about Nyx? What about Storm? What about, whatever? They want to bump them. And attaching them to this will help that. And when you can see that that's the reason, it makes it even more frustrating.
Yeah.
Dan Trudeau says, given Sean's love of the X-Men, I find it sad he sees reading a mutant event as a chore he'll have to do. Yep.
It's
I
where
find
we're
it sad
at.
too.
Just where we're at, dude. It's not the goal. We don't want it to be that, but it's just consistently disappointing to feel like whatever we're potentially liking, because not everybody's liking all these books, they're going to get interrupted just to fit this in for forced like connectivity. Feels like forced fun.
Is forced fun still fun?
Nah, bro. No,
Have
unless
you ever
you have
been
a
to a
good
work
time.
holiday party? No.
Unless the work holiday party is like, you're having a good time, then all right, yeah. You know what? Thanks for taking me out. It's like one of those things.
Atomic Hound says Marvel continues to hunt their most loyal fans to extinction. Bro, I feel that so hard. It's not the X-Men that need to be worried about extinction. It's us. My wallet. Your wallet. I hate to end the news block on such a dismal note. But what can we do? We're not hyped. It is what it is. We'll probably read it anyways because, as Tyler said, we are cucks. I admit it as well because I love Marvel.
Are those what fans of the Zeb Wells Spider-Man run are called?
Wow.
I'll be excited for X-Men, Uncanny X-Men 12, the one after the start
Hell
of this
yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Totally agree with that. All right. We've got 2 more things we got to do. One of them is spin the wheel of games. We're going to do that in a moment. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to play a game to get us out of here. But before we get into that, I've got some more patrons to thank. People that hold us down, gotta shout them out. Gotta be loyal. You know what I mean? Paul Powerhouse Smith, thank you so much. Andrew the Galaxian Smith, Neon Knight, the Cosmic Avenger, Matthew the Shade Cosmo, BJ Kicks, the Living Blade, Bosfrendier, the Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, John Barrier B, Todd Tremor Butler, excuse me, Doomsday David Melendez Doria, Cameron Torn Thornton, Steve, Swarm Canaris, Brian Rage Redmond, Panda v Panda, Mad Max the Absolute Overthinker, and joining the Palsverse, I want to give a welcome to Blur, Jekyll, Jose. Jose strode by the rows of cells, paying no mind to the animated inmates whose violent threats and blood-curdling screams at the sight of him would spook most other people. There were some of the worst criminals the city had ever seen. So much of the devastation it's been facing in recent months has been caused by people here, on the bottom level of the Kirby Institution for Rehabilitation and Bettering Yourself. Jose was a doctor, a psychotherapist of the highest caliber, and an executive on the board of Kirby. He had been given the nickname Jekyll many years ago by colleagues because they believed he kept a monster hidden behind his kind veneer. He preferred to work with the most intensely ill patients, the ones who could really benefit from his particular set of talents. Because of the potential danger in dealing with these patients, Jose brought his personal bodyguard with him instead of Kirby security. A massive hulk of a man whose face was covered by a large sack with holes for his eyes and mouth. Amused by the nickname he'd been given, Jose named this behemoth Hyde. No one knows anything about Hyde. Jose and Hyde arrived at their destination. Jose used his access card to open the door, and the patient was seated inside, eyes nearly bulging out of his head. "Hello, Mr. Lee. You may refer to me as Dr. Jose. I hope I'm not catching you at a bad time." "What's his deal? What's going on with that mask?" Lee pointed to Hyde, his massive red eyes popping out even further. "What you should be concerned about, Mr. Lee, is what's going on with you. You've been incredibly resistant to conventional treatment here at Kirby. That is the only reason why a man such as myself would have the occasion to speak to a man like you, no? I have developed a solution for people like you who have trouble controlling their emotions and their actions. Allow me to show you." Jose reached into his pocket and pulled out a colorful spinning top. He placed it on the table and held it. "This top is a family heirloom, one of the only things my grandmother had with her when she came from Mexico. It's bonded to me now. I want you to look at it, Mr. Lee. Look at it. Think of your happy place. Think of the one place in the world you wish you were right now. Anywhere." Lee gazed at the top as it spun, the colors swirling and flashing, his eyes following the rotation, and then his head begun to move in the rhythm with the spinning. "Are you there, Mr. Lee? Are you in your safe space?" "Yes," he responded, seemingly in a trance. "May I enter, Mr. Lee?" "Yes." Jose's eyes suddenly closed shut and his body went limp. He would have hit the floor if not for Hyde, who effortlessly caught him. Inside of Lee's mindscape was a massive cave in the middle of the Arctic. Lee sat next to a fire for warmth, but he was happy. On the cave wall, the visage of a monstrous creature was illuminated by the fire. The swipe of a massive arm clubbed Lee and put the fire out. "There is no safe space in this world, Mr. Lee. Your only safety is with me." Lee covered and tried to crawl away from the beast Jose appeared as inside of his mind. There was no escape. "Pledge yourself to me. Pledge your mind to me. I will be your salvation." "Anything, please, I pledge myself to you." Satisfied, Jose woke up. Hyde let him go, and Jose straightened his suit. "We have an understanding, don't we, Mr. Lee? Your will is forfeit. Now you act at my behest." "Yes, sir." Jose exited the room, Hyde in tow. Jose was quietly, secretly, horrifyingly building an army in the bowels of the beleaguered city. Under their noses, a new threat arises. Will the heroes be up to the challenge? Thank you, Jose, and welcome to the Palsverse.
Real creepazoid, that one.
Yeah.
The character, not Jose.
Jose gave me a little bit of information about his real life, and I ran with it.
Nice. Hell yeah. Love when they do that.
Hell yeah! Thank you so much, Jose. Um, if you want an origin like that, if you want your own nickname, if you want your own story to be told about you, if you want to be enshrined in the Palsverse, the only way to do that is patreon.com/the comics pals under the join the Palsverse tier. Thank you to everybody who has done that. We are closing out the year really strong with patrons. And if you guys want to contribute, like I said, if you're in the holiday spirit, that's the best way to show your love back. Now we're going to close things out with a little bit of a game. Tyler's going to spin that wheel, and whatever it lands on, we should be able to play. Take
All
it
right.
away.
So let's spin this bad boy. What are we getting? What are we getting? What are we getting? All right, it's Cale's Comic Con. We did that last time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's redo it. Let's redo it. Kind of defeating it. Did we get it again? Oh, we haven't done this one in a while. Buy or sell.
Ah, okay. Very good. Very, very good. I like that. There's one that's been percolating in my mind for a while. And we haven't done one of these in some time, so it just hasn't come up. But now's a perfect opportunity. I'm not sure how much Marco will be able to speak to this one, but I Tyler's here, so we can jam on it a little bit.
All right.
Oh, well, you'll be able to contribute some, but it's just outside of your particular wheelhouse. And chat, I really want your engagement here. After I give you the buy or sell, we'll put it up as a poll. Buy or sell on the better career. Brian Michael Bendis at Marvel, Jeff Johns at DC.
Boy. Oh,
That's a toughie.
it is a tough one. Because both of them are kind of, I guess, done with those eras. It's a specific era.
Yeah.
Early 2000s into the mid 2010s. I think Jeff Johns did a lot of good for specific characters. And helped kind of keep Justice League steady during the New 52, which I think was important to do. But Bendis made the Avengers what they are now, which is a household name. Without Bendis' take on the Avengers coming out of the 90s, I don't think we get the version of the Avengers we see in movies in the MCU. And I think that reinvented Marvel going forward. It kind of changed everything. So Marvel Knights was happening, but Bendis' Avengers epic, new, mighty, just Avengers really had a trickle down into the line as a whole that continues to what it is today. So I'm going to go with Bendis on this one. I'm going to buy Bendis, and I'm selling Jeff Johns. As much as I love Jeff Johns' run, I think in terms of what it meant for the publishers at those given times, I think Bendis was more important.
I'm going to say Bendis as well. I feel like when I wasn't as ingrained in comics, the big thing, and maybe this was because it was Spider-Man, but that was the big thing that was going on. Ultimate Spider-Man was there. The game was introduced. I felt more and heard more tangentially around that specific universe and world, and heard Brian Michael Bendis' name over a Jeff Johns. It wasn't until I got more initiated into comics reading that Jeff Johns and the stuff that was done on Green Lantern came more into view for me. But even before I was ingrained in the world of comics, those were the things that I heard about, and so I think I grant that more credit to get someone who was unactivated to cross the ears of somebody who was unactivated.
This is hard. It's really hard. I am fully admitting that during those years, I was on the Marvel train hardcore. But the only DC books that I read were written by, there were only two men, and it was Morrison and it was Johns. Up until the New 52, those were the only writers of DC Comics who I would read. And the impact that Johns had on DC, I think, lasted longer. Like the effects of his work lasted longer because into the New 52 he was still cooking. And it really doesn't end until Doomsday Clock, which came out not that long ago. Whereas by that point, I think Bendis was already gone from Marvel. But if you're talking about impact, if you're talking about just revolutionizing a company, I mean, Marvel got big off the back of Bendis. I firmly believe in that. I think Ultimate Spider-Man cannot be discounted. That fucking thing got a video game that was really hot.
Not only that, Ultimate Spider-Man is the book for a generation in terms of what got them into comics. And it's at this point, I mean, Gavin's even mentioning it here, that is an influential book for current creators. So those creators might not even be in comics if it wasn't for Ultimate Spider-Man.
I have such a profound love and adoration for what Bendis accomplished during those years that it almost makes me emotional. Like, dude, Bendis's comics were at the root of me being here right now. And so there is a bias that comes into play on some level. But I just think when you look at, like, do we get an Avengers movie that feels like that without Bendis making the Avengers hot with New Avengers? The Avengers were not a hot commodity before New Avengers. You had the Ultimates and they were popular. But in terms of like mainline, the concept of the Avengers, they were kind of cold before Bendis.
I don't even think Civil War would exist without Bendis's, Avengers Disassembled and stuff like that,
How do you get there?
Yeah.
So to me, the answer has to be Bendis. I love Jeff Johns. We've had him on the show. He's a great guy. But in this question, I have to buy on Bendis. I have to. I just do. Yeah, his run didn't end as well. I didn't like his X-Men at all. But pound for pound, I got to go with Bendis.
Tom McCown does give a good point here. Johns was CCO of DC and helmed Rebirth, which was arguably the last great period for DC.
I think that's true, but I also think that there were like he like architecturally, right? Behind the scenes, he helped put that together. But what was he doing at that time? Like he was doing during Rebirth, Doomsday Clock. But what else?
Maybe that's it.
Did that
the button.
The button. That's right.
Button. Yeah, he did the. What's the Flashpoint Batman book for a bit that kind of led into like a whole bunch of books that would lead into JSA, which then was
Flashpoint Beyond.
Flashpoint Beyond, yes,
which was great.
Was good.
Yeah, and I enjoyed all of that. I thought all of that was great. But I feel like Bendis was in the fucking driver's seat writing so many of the comics that we were enjoying. And what he would do would open up a playground. Like, look at the worlds that were open just off of what happened in New Avengers. Then we got to the Mighty Avengers. Then we got to the Avengers Initiative. We got to the Dark Reign. We got, like, all those eras were shepherded by one guy.
And there was more creative impact there, whereas there was creative impact and legacy with Jeff Johns and like the Lanterns and the Spectrum and all that, but it feels isolated. The JSA as well, and that was older. Whereas I think to your point, Sean, what you're illustrating is that it permeated multiple books throughout the company. And yes, he drove the ideation of the company at some point for DC, Jeff Johns. But I think that's different when it comes to the creative input and legacy you leave behind.
Chillmonger mentions what we haven't mentioned either. Bendis created Miles Morales.
Dude. And thank you, Chill, for adding that, because it would be really wrong for us to not say that. And that is completely necessary to the conversation. As far as a contribution to comics, right, that will outlast them both, I would argue that is the larger contribution to comics, would be the creation of Miles.
100%.
It's crazy he did it twice with Ultimate Spider-Man and then Ultimate Spider-Man.
Right. Totally. Jay Sage with the 4 €4.99. I want to say John's for the epic stories, but I love that Bendis dialogue. Although I'm more a DC guy, this is a tough one. Merry Christmas, guys. Merry Christmas. Right back to you, Jay. And yeah, it is a tough one. But like, think about the way that the Avengers are written in the movie. Yes, it's Joss Whedon, but I feel like that kind of storytelling style with those characters, that kind of writing, was acceptable for those characters because for us comic book fans, we already saw it from Bendis. Bendis and Whedon are cut from the same cloth in terms of their stylings, and I felt right at home watching that movie because it felt like Bendis to me. And on top of that, a lot of those characters were I mean, they're the biggest Avengers, but those were characters that Bendis was playing with.
Right.
Jeff Johns revolutionized the Green Lantern. Bendis revolutionized Marvel. I think that's a bigger deal.
Yeah. We got, was it Flaming Jelly Bean? Even as a DC apologist, I think Bendis had more impact. Dude was everywhere, all over the book.
Yeah, go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say, a good thing we're only talking about his Marvel work, not Superman.
Hey man, that left a lasting legacy too. Brian Michael Bendis on that book.
I'm coming. Yeah, I know that.
Oh.
Oh no.
Cole says, I'm buying Bendis. Those USM trades were my first comics. Then I got into his new Avengers run, and the rest is history. I'm in the same boat. I could be biased. I wonder what Cale would say, because he's more of a DC Johns guy. But I wonder like what he would say.
Gavin brings up a good point here. Bendis also largely affected the way comics are written in a way that Johns has not. Really helped usher in not just dialogue, but decompressed storytelling.
And writing for the trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bendis was literally a master at writing for the trade. And I think a lot of people took their cues from him on how to do that.
Cameron with the $4.99. Thank you so much. DC just be putting John Kent in anything, honestly. They don't know what to do with the character. John's wins just because Bendis aged up John for fun. Damn.
I'm not even factoring in Bendis's Marvel work at all in that decision.
Silhouette says Jeff Johns didn't do Justice League ? That was adapted to the DCEU animated films ? Yes, no, he absolutely, totally did, and I think that those things are important and relevant. I just think that you're talking about an era in DC where it was sort of down, not up. Bendis's peak was DC up. Bendis's peak was Marvel up. Bendis's peak elevated Marvel, whereas Johns was doing that Justice League stuff while sales for DC were dwindling. And a lot of people don't necessarily love some of that animated stuff that came out at that time, although it was what it was what DC was to the outside world. And also, yeah, you guys get it.
I think we're all three of us are kind of just saying Bendis at this point, right?
Yeah.
Locked in.
Comic Chic says Blackest Night is greater than any event by Bendis. I agree with that. I agree with you.
Better than Civil War 2. No, I can't even finish that one.
Like the only event that Bendis did that like I could sort of try to use is Secret Invasion, but that's not better than Blackest Night. It's not better than any of Jeff Johns' events. I think he clears Bendis in that category.
But I would say the fact that Bendis can so expertly write his books that spin out of other people's events is a real skill thing. Like, he didn't do World War Hulk, but he wrote about World War Hulk. He didn't do Civil War, but his run really starts the fallout of Civil War.
Yeah, no, the Hulk getting shot into space was the impetus for all of that, and that came from, the New Avengers and the Illuminati stuff.
Yep.
So that's all Bendis. Go ahead.
House of M was Bendis?
Yeah.
Yeah. House of M was hot fire.
I'm not the biggest House of M fan, but I would say if we're looking at events, Jeff Johns clears easily.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially he did Infinite Crisis too. Well, him and a lot of other people. He did 52, some of it. Yeah, that's not
Buy,
a discussion for me. But overall, it's Bendis for sure.
yeah, buy on Jeff Johns events.
Yeah, for sure. If the question was events, I don't think there would be any doubt. And I'm gonna close the poll that we did. It's pretty close actually, which I'm happy with because I don't think it's like
Oh wow.
clear cut. But Bendis winning the poll with 53%, Jeff Johns with 46%. So that's pretty close.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And again, our chat very mixed. I see a lot of people saying Jeff Johns. I see Bendis as well. I know that we have an audience that leans DC, so it's not a surprise to me. But Bendis still winning out in the end.
We can think objectively.
Yeah. Let's hit a couple more comments. Cosm says, "By the way, guys, what do you think the success of Marvel Rivals means for comics?" Not anything tremendous. I think it puts those characters more in the spotlight. Like I think it'll mean a lot for Jeff Comics.
Yeah, I was gonna say something like that. Yeah.
I think Jeff will be a bigger star as a result of Marvel Rivals. But I will say, like, for the Marvel brand as a whole, Marvel Rivals is the best thing that's happened since Across the Spider-Verse.
It's the first video game in that I can remember where they were allowed to put everyone in. Like, we're getting Fantastic Four characters. We have X-Men. We have Avengers. We have Guardians of the Galaxy. The gang's all here. I do think it leads for good things for Jeff. There's already been mentions of by MCU execs saying, yeah, we have plans for Jeff for the movies. So they know they got someone there. Jeff is a character that's getting Eisner Award winning comic books. So Kelly, get that bag if you can.
Right.
But I think Jeff's status will definitely get higher. Maybe, like, I think if something could get memed as well as Jeff does in the game continues to be good. I think it could be happening to more than just Jeff. But I don't know if it really affects the comics or anything like that. There is an Infinite comic out right now, though. A Marvel Rivals Infinite comic. So
it's also worth pointing out that there are characters in that game who don't really have much of a footprint in the comics yet that people are now being exposed to, like Luna Snow and the new Iron Fist.
Yeah, and Lin Lee, and then Cloak and Dagger. Where the hell have they been?
And they had a TV show.
Yeah.
So I think it's only positives what Marvel Rivals has done for the Marvel brand. So
Yo, if I try to load that game in my computer, bro.
Good luck, bud. Have fun on the practice range.
Yeah, it's gonna be fucking smoking.
Reaper XC says, "What about buy or sell? Johns at Marvel versus Bendis at DC." Boy.
What did Johns do at Marvel? Yellow Jacket?
Johns did some Avengers actually.
Did some Vision
he did
too,
some
right?
Avengers. He did Vision. He did yeah, there was some good stuff. I didn't read a lot of Bendis at DC because I kind of got the vibe of what it was and I checked out. Whereas everything that I've read that Johns did at Marvel was real good, and I wish there was more.
The best two things Bendis did at DC were Batman for Walmart. And
So funny.
It's really good. Nick Darrington art. And what was it? Checkmate? It was towards the end of his run. It's kind of a culmination of like Lois Lane, Green Arrow, stuff like that. I thought that was like, oh, this feels like Bendis again. But then he left again. So
Yeah. Yep. All right. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing conversation. I have loved it. You guys have been hanging out with us solid for 3 hours. Thank you for that. The next time we will be live with you is Thursday for Pals Pulls. But before that, on Monday, we drop Pals Previews, which is the show where we let you know the books we're most excited about coming out this week. We're going to let you know what's going to be on Pals Pulls this week, which will be on Thursday, normal time, normal day. It's the day after Christmas, so I figure enough of you will be home, playing with your Christmas gifts or whatever.
we're not going to be breaking records that day, I think it's safe to say. But we will be around at a normal time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much for all of the love and support. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Damn, yo, my man. Sean has officially said we are not a happy holidays podcast. That's what I heard.
I'm just saying that Christmas is coming up and it's appropriate to say Merry Christmas when it's Christmas. That's all.
My favorite holiday greeting video anything. I think it's Smokey Robinson. He got like a cameo where he has to say Happy Hanukkah, but he doesn't know how to pronounce it, so he just says Happy Chanukah.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
He's like, I don't know what this is, but Happy Chanukah.
Oh my goodness, that's insane.
Canceled.
Smash the like button on your way out if you haven't. Subscribe if you enjoyed the show today. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Take care, guys.
See you next week.